Carver School District one, and then to my other one that I don't remember the password to, so. Let me see if I can find.
No, I get out here. That's what I want.
So when speaker's off, then you can turn yours up, or vice versa, whoever's going to provide the volume for us.
So I turned mine up a little bit.
Turn mine all off. I think you can create things if you want.
Okay, I'm going to turn mine all the way up and see what happens there. Okay, that sounds right.
All right, well, welcome to the school board meeting, April 15th, 2020, 3:35 in the afternoon. We're in our work session. Board members are all present except for Melanie, and we expect her here. What Lee was on, wasn't she?
Yep, she's on.
I don't see her name. Oh, I think it's Lee McCourt. Is Lee McCourt. All right.
There we go.
I'm not muted, I'm all the way down. His microphone's picking me up.
Melanie just joined.
Okay, so we're all here. Ready to go. Go ahead, Superintendent. Are you going to project the agenda then for us?
So I'm going to switch to present mode so everybody will see what's on my screen. Okay, now everybody should see the agenda. Do you guys see that?
Okay.
And for the it's because I'm controlling it. Okay, so for the work session, we have capital outlay, and I'm going to turn the time over to Darren for that.
Be real quick. So let's see. Let me unmute. Did I unmute?
Yeah. Maybe I'll just slide over to your computer.
So with the capital outlay, just to give you an update on a few of the projects, we have started the bids on, did we get the carpet bid?
Carpet, the asphalt, the transportation office is all done.
So the carpet and the asphalt bids we let out and received those back, and they were within our budgets. They were very good. We went back with the transportation office and simplified the design a little bit. We probably didn't need to because the bid came in so low as it was, but it'll be around 30,000, and then we'll need to, what was it, 36? 32,000.
That doesn't include.
We'll need to then purchase furniture. We did that rather than custom cabinetry. And so that was well within the range of what the board had said. And then the other projects we're just moving forward on, and we'll continue to update you as we do bids. Now that school's not in session, or we know school won't be in session, we'll be able to begin some of these projects. We've worked with Philip and Ken about projects that will start with technology and with security. That will start before what we normally would have. And so we plan to, I think we'll have lots of time to get all these projects done.
we still have the budget restraints, and many of them we can't start till July 1st.
Yeah, if they're not pressing and we don't think that they're going to, if there's not going to be any problem getting them purchased or completed before this is for the next year's budget and we are deferring those, but anything that makes sense to start early, to get it done early, we will start early. Carpet's always one of those. It's nice to have it done sooner than later, so.
He's actually started tearing out in one of the schools, and hopefully next week it will continue. The carpet is supposed to be in next week, except for the district office that's on back order. So
Aaron, ask if everybody can hear. Here.
Yeah, I'm not where I can see everybody. Let's see. Can you give me a thumbs up if you can hear us? Let's see. I can only see Lance's presentation though.
Well, you can unmute, if you can't hear, unmute and tell us.
Yeah, let us know. I think we're good though. In the chat.
Okay, what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna ask you guys to go out of it. I'm gonna use this, and this camera will pick up everybody in this room.
Okay.
And we'll just project from mine. Cool.
Everybody that I saw had their thumbs up.
So we'll just use.
That I was just going to get, oh, I got it right.
He turned off. He's out of the Google Meet.
I stayed in it so I can see the people, but I'm not, I'm muted and my volume's off.
Okay. Sorry, we had a little technical difficulty here, and we'll, I think we're ready to go now.
I wanted to give the board an opportunity to ask any follow-up questions that they might have about any of the projects, anything you're wondering about.
I have a question.
Okay.
Yep, go ahead.
I had a friend call me from Salt Lake and they had another tremor last night of over 4 point. And I just wondered what the status is of getting helpers, the building, the structurally,
Yeah.
how is that moving forward? Do you have,
On
is that
itself.
done soon?
Yeah, so the timelines are the same, even though we're out for the school year. They're still in design and bidding, that they're probably not gonna begin work any sooner than the end of May, the last part of May, so, but then we would expect work on both sides, the high school and helper to go forward at that point.
Okay.
So I was talking with the construction manager from Hogan this morning, and we just got talking about how COVID-19 has impacted the construction industry. He said they're still going forward on projects. They're not limiting the number of workers on a site. They're taking extra precautions in terms of, they've staggered break times, so breaks and lunches. They don't have their people together, their masks, and they've installed additional like portable sink areas and hand wash areas. But so far it hasn't impacted their work. But what he has noticed, he said, is that in some cases, the suppliers have shut down. And so at times they have found they're not able to get some of the materials, especially if it's specialty items. He doesn't see that impacting our projects with the early stages of our projects. The things that they need aren't going to be an issue. But as you get towards the finishes and the details and things like that, those things he's finding to be in short supply in some cases. So at the moment, we don't see that there will be a big change in timeframe because of this, but as we know, things change fast. So we'll keep you posted if we hear of anything.
Thank you.
Melanie, Lee, do you have any questions?
That doesn't mean no, that just means I can't hear you.
Can you unmute? You're-
No, I'm just saying that I didn't have my volume on, but my only, just to keep us informed in how much it's costing.
Yeah, those,
As
we
we
can
go
send
along.
out those bids. We'll update that spreadsheet with the bid amounts that we got back recently, at least on those 3 projects, and as we get the others, so that you can see kind of a live update on.
So where's that spreadsheet?
So right now, we shared it with you originally. I went and saved off a copy of the board's approval so that we have an archive copy. I'll need to take that approved one and reshare it with you so that you can see those changes. So it hasn't been shared with you yet.
Right. And then is that something that periodically can be updated as we talk
Yes,
about it?
so as I share it
Yeah,
with you, we'll
right.
leave that as a live current copy, any
Sure.
changes made.
So you'll share it through email,
Yes, you'll receive a link.
and then we'll just need to keep going back to that original email to find a link to go
Yeah.
to that.
Yeah, and once it's shared with you, you could in your Google Drive, you could keep it there where you access it. I think you'll probably just
Save it
refer to the
Google-
email.
Save it to the Google Drive.
Another thing that you could do is we could put the link on today's agenda item, this agenda item, and then it would always be there in board docs if you wanted to find it there too.
That's probably the best way to do it.
Either or, and then if there is any updates you want to share, you can send those out on email, but this will always be a,
Yeah, but I did it Google Docs the other day, so.
I'll send you the link. We can do both. I'll send you an email link to it, and then we'll load a link onto
sure.
this meeting's agenda.
Gary, anything else with the capital improvements that you want to share with us? You should share with us.
Yeah, we did want to address and discuss a little bit more about the lifts. I don't know if this is the meeting to do that, and
Where else?
if you have extra time, I don't know.
There is plenty of time.
Yeah, it looks like we're gonna have plenty of time. We just, in talking more with the mechanics and in reaching out to other districts, and you can jump in at any point, but I think using Landon's diesel mechanic as a comparison is not a very good comparison. We only took a few buses down there. The only bus they did a couple last year, a few $1,000s that we paid them. They don't do any other people's buses. So though they work on buses, the amount of buses they work on are very limited. What they do have instead of a lift is they have 2 overhead cranes, because the vehicles that they work on are tractor trailers, diesels, that you typically work on from above. And so they lift the cabs off and they work on the buses, or on the tractor trailers. Buses aren't accessed from above. And so if Landon's or a company like his actually worked on buses, they would be working on them from below and would approach it a different way. And so as you look at bus garages that work on buses, universally they have lifts. Emory County has 2 lifts, and not to say we have to keep up with Emory, but just to point out that even the smaller districts use lifts. And so I think our mechanics would like an opportunity to make a case for the benefits of the lifts, the uses, and why that comparison to Landon's diesel mechanic isn't a very good comparison.
So one other thing, the newer buses are lower to the ground, and if you know the mechanics, you've seen them, they're not big, burly men, but they can't get under some of our buses, even on a creeper. So it would really encourage you to think seriously about allowing us at least the in-ground posting.
Is this something that we need to worry about in the design and construction
So
of the new bays over here, or is it just something that can be added on later?
So it is in the foundation plan. So in talking with Phil Wentworth, when we let him know that he wasn't aware that we were requesting it separately, their assumption was you would not build a bus garage without an in-ground lift. He had put that in his estimates to be paid for from the bonds, and he had already begun designing the foundation in a way that it would house the lift. And so
But he's talking an in-ground lift,
an in-ground.
not portable lifts to lift front of the
Yeah,
vehicle.
those don't need to be
Right.
designed around, the in-ground lift needs to be designed. And so he has that currently in the plan. We don't disagree with taking off of the capital outlay. We would just hope the board wouldn't take the stance that it couldn't be paid for at all, or that it couldn't be provided at all. And so
You mean using bond?
if we went forward, he had been planning for it in the bond funds.
And that's, was 75,000, is that my memory?
140,000 for the.
Yeah, we had put on the capital initially 100,000, but, yeah, it's.
Well, the in-ground was 140,000. The
The,
portable lift was about 70,000.
yeah, for the 4. And that was something the driver said they would like the portable lifts as well. But that could be something that could be added later. We could go a year or so and revisit that. But we would like to move forward with an in-ground lift from the onset.
So you said the drivers would like that. You said, do you mean mechanics?
I meant mechanics.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify this. It was confusing me. What do the drivers want with the
No, I
lifts?
said that.
Okay, that's right. I just,
We don't care.
clarifications. Don't say we don't care about the drivers.
No,
What they think is what's,
we care about
that's
that.
just as bad. Okay, well, we have a couple of options here with the time that we have. I think maybe what we ought to do at this particular time, I mean, we can move ahead and get the presentations from the principals, like most of them were all here, or we can review the policies, or we can do both if we've got time here before the 5 o'clock meeting starts. So,
Yeah, so I was looking at, there are 2 information items that don't require board action.
Well,
that we
we
can
can go
go
through
through.
everything and then wait for the 5 o'clock meeting and just approve it.
That, right.
Is what I'm.
And I think I don't think we have all principles yet, but we have certainly plenty to get going here.
Someone's got to keep up right there.
Yeah, Keith, wake up. Keith, wake up.
I would like us to review the school lands trust. Can we do that now?
Okay, sounds good. Let's move with the principles that we have here, and then we'll go from there. Looks like we have just 2 right now, huh?
So looking at the
You got Chris on top.
list here, we've
Chris
got,
is- Okay, there they all are. Okay.
got Chris, Keith. And that's all. Oh, Stacy. Chris, Keith, and Stacy.
All right, well, on the list that you send us, Keith will be first, it looks like.
Of course.
Okay, take it away.
Are you gonna, Lance, are you gonna present that? I don't,
Oh, yeah. Let me bring it over there. Okay, should be able to see it, Keith, can you?
it's pretty small, but I'll try.
Yeah, I'm gonna make it bigger here. How's that?
That's better. All right, so as we've met with our school community council, the plan hadn't really changed in many years, and we tried to really make it focused on our 2 real academic needs. So we have just 2 goals.
I didn't have much trouble looking at this and realizing that mathematics was your first goal.
Well, just be glad it's not my only goal. So we have a goal, and SAGE is always complicated because we never get the results until after we have to report. So it's 2 years apart. So we're looking from last year to the end of next year and looking at growth for math. In order to accomplish that, we have some intervention and extension parapros, continuing purchasing Chromebooks so that the kids have access to the software that's our supplemental programs, and also to continue purchasing that software. And then we also are still working on our reading goal. At the middle of this year, we were 40%. And so at the middle of next year, so again, we're not looking at the end because it's usually we don't have the end of this year's data when we have to write the plan. So we want to be up to 45%. And again, we have parapros, and we have a little bit of professional development to continue training, especially in the phonics programs. And then we're still hiring through Trust Lands our aides so that we can have common prep time and PLC time to improve in math and reading. So those art and music and things are still built into those areas, but we're not tracking the success of those. We're using those programs to enhance our reading and our math.
I have a
Looking at
question.
your Okay, go ahead, Kristen.
It's Lee.
Oh, sorry, Lee.
That's okay. My question is when we're purchasing these new devices, the Chromebooks, does that then become part of our technology budget, or will Lands Trust continue to purchase those and repair those, or how will that work?
It's a combination
Of both. As you noted on the technology capital list, they have a rotation of computers the Chromebooks that they're replacing, maintaining, and upkeeping. But outside of that, some schools and principals invest in additional ones, and those become the responsibility of their budgets to keep maintaining.
So this purchase is our very last classroom. We will be 1-to-1 K through 5 with this purchase.
So this is not coming out of the technology budget. This is coming out of the Lands Trust budget.
It's been in there for several years. We've slowly, one room at a time. This would be for our last kindergarten room that does not. They've been sharing devices right now. This will bring us truly 1-to-1.
So for the public, and I guess anybody who isn't aware, the district through the technology budget is providing third grade and up. And then Creekview has chosen to invest in those devices for lower grades.
Now, Keith, my understanding at the very beginning of this was that we use the Chromebooks in those higher grades, but we'd use iPads with kindergarten and first grade at least. Is that what we're still doing, or are you using a combination?
Currently, they are iPads in K1, but Phil and I have been talking about there's a brand new Chromebook it's a tablet that we might get one of and see how it works before we decide what to buy for this classroom.
Okay.
So tablets are still better for these younger kids, but we haven't decided if we're doing iPads or if we're going to do a Chrome tablet.
One of the problems with iPads is the maintenance on them. Our techs we can't afford to have them become experts in everything. And so they've kind of drawn a line in the sand, and we agree with them that, we ought to stick with one platform so we can really support them when they break and stuff. So.
Okay.
So
Particularly if they're stepping up now and they have something that at the software compatibility with what you want, that's the important part. What's going to educate the kids the best, and then is it available on a Chromebook platform?
95% of what we use is web-based anyway.
Oh, okay.
So
And
there's
how many,
one program we're looking into.
how many devices will $11,000 get?
It's that cost right now in case the only option is to do iPads. iPads are more expensive and we would need the charging card also. Well, that's Phil's estimate he gave me for a classroom set of iPads. If we choose to go another route, it may buy more, and we would then possibly start into another room and replacing the iPads for those Chrome tablets if they are going to work for us.
Okay. And then on your first dollar item, how many parapros are we talking? Is that 3 or just 2 or 4 or 1 or?
I'm trying to remember exactly how I did it between the two goals because
You have identified $30,000 for parapros.
No, well, between both goals, he's got 55,000.
So these are there are 3 intervention extension aids. The other money, and those are going to be 20-hour aids. And then the other ones are to continue our Legos, our music, our art, and our computers. All of those are built into that same salary. So it's 7 positions in reality.
Okay.
7 positions out of the 55,000.
Yeah, some of them are 20 hours, some of them are 10.
Sure. Okay.
Okay. And $4,000 in professional development, what does that get you?
It's to continue making sure all of my K2 are trained in phonics and our really great reading, including training our aides so that when they're working with those, the district pays for most of the teacher training, but it will help to train our aides in really great reading, our phonics program.
Okay. Any other questions?
Congratulations on the new mascot, though.
Yeah,
You what?
Congratulations on the new mascot. I think it's great.
Thank you. It's been fun.
You know, do we need to, I only have one question, and that is, I think it's great that you're adding the technology, but do we need to just keep like an overall tab of what we're spending on technology just so that we have a ballpark figure of that? We had a really large,
you mean with both our budget and the Lands Trust money? How much is going out from the district total? Is that what you're meaning?
yeah, just because what if someday this, the trust lands money goes away or for whatever reason, I just wonder if that would be logical to keep track of.
Is this question for me or a general question? I don't know how to answer this.
General one. I just wonder if we should really know how much our district is actually spending on technology to have the kind of programs in place that we have.
So we,
At least I think that's a good PR number to have.
but yeah, we do that currently. We have several account codes that, one is for software, one is for hardware. And
And that includes the Land Trust, all runs through that code.
That's all programs, yep.
Okay, so yes, Kristen, we do.
Okay, because when we passed the technology budget, it seemed like, a really large budget, but it's just interesting to know exactly how much we have to maintain the kind of focus we have with technology.
Great. Okay, let's move to Wellington.
Hello. I saw all these other people join in, so I thought you would skip by me and go somewhere else. So
We just asked all the other principals to join, but we can keep going
Yeah.
in whatever order.
Go ahead. Since we've got you, we'll go ahead and then we'll go back up.
sounds good. So we're continuing several of the same goals we've had each year. We would like to continue funding our art specialist. This allows obviously our kids to go to art, giving that common time for teachers to collaborate. And so not only are our kids gaining skills and getting supported in some of those essential standards through art, we're taking care of some interventions and instructional needs on the teacher side. So we double win in that situation. Just a side note, we're losing our art specialist after how many years she's been here. Her family's relocating, so we're super sad about that here at Wellington. We are going to fund again another parapro that is focused on reading, and specifically one priority is managing the take-home library, making sure that every kid in kindergarten through third has a physical book to take home with them at night. We do provide Raz Kids, which is in the electronic format, but we also see the value in having that physical book in their hand and being able to lay down on the couch and read a book to somebody. So we're going to continue that process. We did put some money in for some supplies to help keep funding that take-home book. Unfortunately, we do lose some of those and lots of damage to those sometimes. So we need to keep some funding there to replace that. Then we are continuing our math aid. We implemented this 2 years ago, working on having an aid that is just focused on first through third. We've done a lot of work in trying to identify those foundational number sense skills, and she's been instrumental in working with kids trying to fill those gaps so we could see those effects in our third, fourth, and fifth grade testing, whatever we call it now, RISE. That was the goal as we started this a couple years ago, and we feel that we have seen improvement, and we felt we were going to see improvement again this year, but it got washed out. So the idea is if we can solidify some of those foundational skills earlier, we're spending less time in those upper grades trying to get those down and still get content in. So we're flowing a little bit better on that. And again, we put some money in for some supplies, some intervention and manipulative supplies there.
And a question on the dates, the years you've got in there.
Say that again?
So you say that the math proficiency from the RISE spring 2019 of 53% to 58% on the spring 2020. Isn't this money
It
for
should
next?
be, yeah, no, it should say 2021. It's
It should be
typo.
2019.
Yeah, that was my
2021.
question. I had that question too.
And you've got
Well-
that down through.
Okay.
It should be
So-
2021. We obviously can't reference the 2020. We're in 2020 and we're not even going to have a test to
I
reference.
think
So
we can still use the 2019 as a baseline.
yes,
And-
yes, we are using 2019 as a baseline and we're saying next year that's going to be the improvement. Obviously we'd hope it'd be more, but it is the 2021 spring rise. So that'll need to be updated. In fact, I'll fix that right here.
Do you have that, Stacy, you're gonna fix that?
Yeah,
or
I
do you-
fixed it.
Oh,
Yeah, I just fixed it on, I don't know what link you're on, but I just fixed it on the one you sent us and I will go in and fix that. If it's what it says in the one I submitted, I will go fix that as well right now. Well, after I get done talking here. Any questions on those ones I just talked about, or do you want me to continue on our next one?
Go ahead.
Good, okay. So we have, in the last couple of years, tried to provide some off-contract time pay for our teachers to continue working on that carbon growth cycle. We've got really good at tightening up our time, and we were able to really provide more uninterrupted time on Mondays. So we have been really better about our time. So we didn't feel like we needed to spend as much or offer as much off-contract time for next year. So we reduced that from last year, but we still have 10 hours of off-contract time that we're going to pay our teachers to make sure that the process is completed through each of our cycles. We're on a 45-day cycle, a quarter cycle now. So we figured it might be nice to have a couple hours each quarter to make sure that that work is all completed for the end of that cycle.
Is this all teachers?
Is it what?
All teachers?
Teachers, yeah.
All
The
teachers,
the
okay.
K through 5 teachers and the instructional coach.
Okay.
And then Lance, if you can, let me scroll on my screen. I don't know. I can't see yours all the way. There we go. Then our PTA, again, we've appreciated those Chromebook carts in our grades 3 through 5. Last year, the PTA purchased a Chromebook cart for our second grade to share between those two classes. And it was wonderful. We are using iReady and Raz Kids every day. And it's nice to have those devices, but for them to share it is problematic because both of them seem to want to always use them around the same time. And when you're using a Chromebook for the key access to 2 main programs, we needed more Chromebooks. So our school trust Lance has chosen to purchase a Chromebook cart for this other second grade classroom. So both classrooms will now have full access to carts 1-to-1 every day. So headphones and Chromebook cart will be that 5th goal.
There's a good contrast between the iPad classroom set and a Chromebook. So
Oh, yeah. It's about half the cost, I believe, for a Chromebook versus a iPad. So, and our second graders they're really good with those Chromebooks. I mean, they take a little bit longer to learn the management of it, but they're ready. We had first graders using it last year too, and I would probably consider doing something more on a Chromebook base as we would go down the grade levels again. So, but I don't get to make that choice next year.
So I have a question. This is Jeff. I took the time to read your past community council meetings and their minutes, and I see where you're holding your meetings, but I couldn't see much about, or I couldn't see anything about the plan for coming forward. So was this just put together because it was what you've done in the past couple of years, so you've reinvented to go forward, or were you able to pull together your committee meeting to actually vote on this plan?
Yeah, are those notes not on there? Hold on, I'm pulling up my council notes right now. No, we absolutely had a meeting on that. Let me see what my last notes are. So this was taken care of at our last.
Okay. And that's why I asked, because
Yeah, February 27th, and I can see those notes are not posted, so I will post those again.
That's fine.
as I get off this.
okay.
Okay. So, thank you.
Yep.
Any questions on that from anybody else? Kristen, Lee, Melanie? Okay, Bruin Point.
Do we have Dina with us?
I'm here.
All right.
Okay, I can't see the document, so I need to pull it up. All right, so our first goal, do you want me to read them all, or do you have any questions? What's your preference?
Tell us.
Why
Tell us about it.
don't you go ahead and go through the whole plan and then we'll ask you questions.
Okay, I can do that. So our first goal is currently 23% of Bruin Point students are reading at a level corresponding to their end of year grade level. And that was the January 2020 data. The March data, which wasn't an official benchmark, but after we re-leveled kids in March, it's actually up to 32% now. And that was right before we went into the school dismissal. So hopefully it's still at 32 and maybe even going up. But by the end of the 2021 school year, 50% of our student population will be reading on or above grade level based on the RASKids leveling assessment. So that affects all academic areas. And then our key actions are retention of our art professional to facilitate additional PLC time. And then teachers will be given professional development in the area of reading. So that's our first goal. And then our second goal is 80% of students receiving reset room support will maintain or increase RAS reading level during the duration of these individualized services. So that will help with reading and our behavior component. Key actions, students struggling with behavior and self-regulation skills will be provided behavioral and academic support through a school reset room. So we will hire a 29-hour paraprofessional for the reset room. And then our third goal, 100% of students receiving after-school tutoring will master grade level essential standards with a score of 80% or higher on essential standards assessment. And we'll focus on reading, math, writing, and science. After-school tutoring will be offered to students who are struggling to reach mastery. Students will be assessed to monitor progress, and then the teachers will be paid an hourly rate to provide that tutoring.
Okay, one of the questions that I have is what essential standards assessment, what's that?
Well, that's based on, the teachers have assessments for each of their essential standards. And so when kids haven't mastered that essential standard, they will use whatever assessment they've had for that standard, and then they'll reteach it and then they'll reassess it. And
so that's a PLC level
yes,
test, developed test.
yes.
Okay.
So, but your funding for your after hours employment is not a lot. Are you going to
No.
supplement additional
No.
wages, or?
Say that again.
I don't know if you're going to have enough funding there to cover.
Part of
very much.
the issue with the after-school tutoring is a lot of our kids are bused, and so they don't, it's hard for them to stay after school. So it's just a pocket of kids that stay. So yeah, there could be more need for more funding in that area. And I don't know, that could be an area where TSSA funding could be used next year as well. But we did have the opportunity about the last 5 weeks before school was out to have a 19-hour behavior aid. And it made the world of difference for us.
So the community council and the teachers really wanted to take that extra money and get a 29-hour behavior aid. So, and we did drop we had technology, a technology paraprofessional, and we also dropped that because teachers are doing so much technology in their classroom, and we have one-on-one devices now. We don't have to take kids down to the lab. So that was the direction the teachers and the council wanted to go.
So you've led into my other question, my next question was, you're asking for a 29-hour paraprofessional for your reset room. You've got 100 to 110 kids, and we have a couple elementary schools that have over 500 kids, and they have one 20-hour or 29-hour reset paraprofessional. Does she do other duties?
Yeah, she would do, well, and we had the reading goal. So if kids weren't utilizing the reset room, she can do one-on-one tutoring. She can push in to classrooms and do reading support as well.
Okay. Then I guess I would suggest on the plan that we list 29-hour paraprofessional reset room / whatever else she may be doing. Okay. I don't want someone from the state level to come back and say, no, we paid for this person to be this specialist and they're doing these other duties. And
yeah. The other thing too is with the school counselor being there Thursday and Friday and every other Monday, there's a lot of times that behavior aid can, they'll collaborate with the school counselor and give that additional support, student check-ins, check-in in the morning, check-in at the end of the day, just give that support that's not there when the counselor's not in the building, the day she's not in the building.
Right, but to support what Jeff said here too, one of the guidelines that we get from the state about using money for behavioral type issues is it needs to be academic based on the behavior. So the more academic tasks that are put on that, the better it's going to look to them.
Okay.
Thank you. So Dina, I'll work with you to get that updated on the website, okay?
Okay, thank you.
I have a question on goal 3.
Okay.
When the teachers are being paid after hours, do they have to wait past their 30-minute contract time to be with students?
Actually, what we've done, Lee, is because it's too hard to do that, is they go from 2:45 to 3:15, but then they have to make up that half an hour. So then they stay at work from 3:15 to 3:45 because, it's just not feasible to ask the kids to wait for a half an hour and then get tutored for a half an hour. So they've just either stay after an extra half an hour or they come in a half an hour early.
So how often are they doing this?
It varies. Some teachers were doing it Tuesday through Friday this past year, and others were doing it only 2 days a week. So it just varied by how many students that they needed to tutor and the amount of time that the students needed. And we actually have talked about, because we still have a balance there, we talked about the teachers using that funding that's still there from this year, even after school's out, to provide that tutoring. Because correct me if I'm wrong, Darren, but we have until July to use this funding. Is that correct?
Yeah, June 30th.
I couldn't hear you. What was that?
Yep, you're correct.
Okay, so that's our intention, to use the funding that's been allocated for this year, because there is that funding that's still there this year that they didn't.
See if they relax the rules on the carryover this year.
That would be nice.
So now, I had this.
More than 1% carryover this year because they didn't spend it.
Yeah, right.
I've seen waivers for the deadlines, but nothing according nothing about carryover yet.
But I don't.
I'm sure that will come
Yeah,
up.
I don't think we can defend that. We'll go right to the state school board quickly, something like this.
I have one more question.
Oh, two.
Okay.
How does that work so that parents are allowed time after schools if they're doing this tutoring time?
What,
So that parents can meet with teachers if need be.
oh, we haven't had that issue, but if we did, then teachers could just schedule it and then let their kids go to a different teacher that's tutoring, because most of the tutoring that we did this year was math and reading, and the teachers even shared kids. And so if a parent, and I even sat in sometimes and tutored, because a teacher might have something else going on. We have one teacher that had to meet with a parent every day after school for about 15 minutes. And so I just went in and tutored her kids until she got in there. So going forward, I don't know, what the new principal will want to do, but that's how we handled it this year.
Okay.
I have a question about this same thing. Contractually, teachers have to be there 30 minutes before school, is that correct? And 30 minutes after?
Yes, that's correct.
And I think maybe, I haven't had time to study that or think about it, but maybe Lance needs to think about that. Because if you're tutoring, I know you're saying that you're having other, you're taking over their time, but if you're getting paid double for that, I just wonder how, I don't know, that just, I just wonder if that will cause some issues down the road. That might be something Lance would like to think about.
Kristen, as she presented the plan, they're not going to pay double. They're required to stay an extra half an hour. So they're staying an hour after school instead of just that half hour.
Okay. As long as,
Or she said they'll come a half hour earlier, so they'll be an hour early for school, or they'll stay an hour after school. One or the other, to make up that time. They're already all over that.
Yep.
Were there any questions?
I had one more question. Again, I tried to read the meeting minutes and I look at the agendas and stuff like that for community council meetings. I couldn't find those for Bruin Point. So I don't know if they're being posted to where people can find them. I could find previous years. I could find like 2017 and 2018. But I
Okay,
couldn't find current ones.
the last one's not on there, but they are there somewhere on the webpage. So I'll find those and make sure that they're in an easier place.
Okay, thank you.
Good. Easy's good.
Yeah, I agree.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, let's move to Castle Heights.
Is Wendy on yet?
Wendy's not on.
I am. Good afternoon, evening.
Hello.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. Okay, so for Castle Heights Elementary, we have 3 goals, just a little bit of background history. When I met with my team and my parents, before we started on this year's goals, we went back and looked at what we had done previously and pretty much said this is an open slate. This is what's been done in the past. The teachers on the committee spoke to the positives of what they liked in each goal and spoke to how it was working for our school. Both parents that are on the committee are pretty involved, and so they were pretty familiar with how things had been implemented in the past and really liked it. So as a committee, we decided to continue on with what had been in place already. So our first goal is We've used trust land money in the past to employ a music teacher, art teacher. We do want to have well-balanced kids so that they're receiving all sorts of different learning. And with those two specials in place, that enables me to meet my teachers' 120-minute contract time that I have to give them for prep. And then I've also worked that grade levels have common preps during their specials time so that it enables them to collaborate if they choose to during their prep time. So during that, kind of supporting that goal using the RISE assessments at the conclusion of the 2018-19 school year, 52% of our students were proficient in language arts and 55% in mathematics. I'm reading that right?
59 in math, 55 in science.
Oh, thank you. Yep, I just missed that. 55, 59. And that was according to the RISE assessments. So pretty much that goal is just supporting our kids and giving them opportunities to experience the fine arts, as well as giving our teachers collaboration time with that common prep time.
I don't think there's any argument at all in the education community of the benefits of fine arts as far as developing minds and improving scores other places. But one of the other goals somewhere with one of the other schools is doing basically the same thing, but they put a little blurb on there that says that fine arts education has been shown to improve these other areas. I think it would be nice to put that on the end of your goal also.
And I do believe in the long summary that I submitted. It does contain that wording in my recommendation.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I just tried to capture the essence and I didn't include that.
I was going to say that wording sounds very familiar. Yes, we need to add that.
Well, if it's there already, it's there.
Yeah, I'll double check and make sure.
So I had a question about your goal number 3.
Well, she's not to 2 yet.
Okay. I thought she was ready to take questions. We got quiet.
I'm sorry, I was just finished with 1. Any questions with goal 1 before I move on to goal 2?
Okay.
We're ready.
Okay, goal 2 deals with our reset room. 100% of our students receiving reset room services will maintain their achievement or make growth based on DIBELS, reading A to Z, RAS, iReady Math, and the state assessments during the time the services are received in all areas. And
That's
pretty
an
much
aggressive goal. When you put the state assessments on there, that's an aggressive goal, yeah.
we can certainly take it off if you want to. We're just trying to look at every area.
That was a compliment.
Oh, okay. It's like, we can take it off, but we're just really trying to keep the kids in the classroom, give them the breaks as needed. I've really worked hard this year and dedicated a day a week to having a behavior team meeting that includes myself, my counselor, my reset room aide, as well as my special ed teacher. And each week we kind of talk about our kids that are on the behavior tier 2, tier 3, putting in those supports, talking, collaborating, giving the reset room teacher guidance so that we can support those kids. Some of the supports have been some scheduled check-ins, some scheduled push-ins where we collaborate with the classroom teacher to find out, kind of when is the time that little Johnny starts to lose it or needs some support. So I do have to say, with my reset room teacher, we do keep her engaged throughout the day with students and supporting their academic learning to keep them in the classroom and keep them learning.
Can I ask, I guess I don't have a very good memory, but I don't remember us talking a whole lot about reset rooms, or I don't know very much about them. So who gets sent there and for how long do they go to this reset room?
So in our 3-tier behavior plan, at first when it's a teaching moment, the classroom teacher handles the issue. But if it gets to the point where it's been repeated teachings or it's something a little bit more serious, the student is sent out to the reset room teacher. A lot of times, if it's a first offense, I will sit in and we will visit with the student. We will find out what was going on, what should you have done differently. Sometimes we have them fill out a refocus sheet to get them thinking about their actions and what they could do better. But more times than not, the kids that we do the scheduled visits with are the ones that are on a behavior plan or an IEP, or some of them are kids that need just a lot more support, that need some scheduled breaks or some scheduled support throughout the school day to help them be successful and to help remind them of what actions they need to be using in the classroom.
So do they stay in there for very long?
10 minutes is usually the max. Some are even less. We want to, just depending on the needs of the student, there's some students that are emotionally disturbed. Some days they only need a minute or two. Other days they need a full 10 minutes to reset and get themselves ready for classroom again.
Thank you.
Is that the standard protocol across the district then?
Not everyone has a reset room, but those who do have the reset room use it very similar.
So then basically for the reset room, the paraprofessional, she's not really doing a lot of teaching in there or helping them do their skills if they only stay in there for 10 minutes. Is that how long every school stays in there for, the children?
I can't speak to what other schools do. It really, this is kind of a unique situation because every time that you have an incident that you deal with, it's always a little bit different. So our goal is 10 minutes or less, but there are times where kids just having a bad day or whatever, and we'll advocate, can I go to the reset room and have help? It just depends on the day because the reset room can be teacher directed, but for some of our kids, especially our kids that are on tier 2, tier 3 behavior plans, we're teaching them to advocate for self with the counselor guiding the reset room teacher. They do lessons with kids to help them recognize their feelings and kind of recognize when they're going to start losing it. And so we do have kids that do advocate to go take an assignment to the reset room, just to have a change of environment and sometimes just have that one-on-one support that they need to focus. And sometimes you might take 2 or 3 minutes to talk to them about their feelings. Let's try those deep breathing exercises and then get them focused on doing the work. And then kind of once they're back into school mode, then she'll walk them back to the classroom to join their peers.
At Castle Heights, how many on average does a reset room serve?
Regulars with our behavior plan kids, we have about 10 regulars that we have on a schedule with those behavior plans. Then we also have her help us sometimes if a kid needs to do recess detention and do a rethink sheet. She will help with that. So it just depends on the day. I mean, we have a hit and miss, but for our regulars, that's a weekly scheduled occurrence. We have about 10 or so.
Okay, number 3.
And then number 3, so at the end of the 2018-19 school year, 62% of Castle Heights students were reading at or above the level corresponding to their grade level. By the end of 2021 school year, 70% of students will be reading at or above the reading level corresponding to their grade level. And I think that might be a little bit of a typo. That was our goal for the end of this year. And then we have, again, by the end of the 2020-21 school year, 70% of our students will master the essential standards in reading on average K through 5 grades. This one, we pretty much use our DIBELS data, where we came up with this data. And so what we're doing here with this money, this is pretty much our interventions that we have in place 4 days a week, where students participate in an hour-long intervention based on skills needed. That's determined by the grade level teachers after they've given common assessments. They identify the gaps in skills that kids might have, group them in small groups, and then they go forth with the intervention. Those kids that are proficient and meeting grade level needs and ready to move on, then their intervention is going to the gifted and talented teacher so that they can receive instruction and extensions in their area. So with this goal, we would like to continue to employ a gifted and talented teaching position, and then 3 paraprofessionals. And then I also want to put just a little bit of money aside so that if there's a conference that comes up that we feel would be beneficial to our staff, we can send a few teachers to attend the conference, then come back and share with the school the key points that they learned. And then also want to put aside just a little bit of money for leveled books, because we do have leveled reading carts outside of each classroom to help support student reading on their independent levels.
Okay, this question doesn't have anything to do with your plan, but it's a general, it brings up a question I've had in my mind where you're putting $1,000 into level books. Have you tracked which level has the greatest use as you're going through those to see which ones may need more robust selection than other ones? Have you tracked that at all? Or are you just kind of flock shooting with that?
You know, we seem to have a higher need once kids get into the J books and higher. But this last year, actually, my 4th and 5th grade teachers came to me and just said, you know, we would really like to use some of that money to purchase some novels, high interest books that kids want to read. So yes and no. I know that's not a very good answer.
I was just wondering if we've been, okay, the J and above we have 50% of our kids there, and so we need more robust selection or not in that particular area.
Correct. And we do somewhat have that data from our reading sheet that the superintendent provides for us at the first of the year, where we kind of look at end of year reading levels, and we see where kids are at, and then kind of tracking them through the year. But I do take teacher input, and I'm more than happy when teachers come to me and they come to me with specific novels or specific books that they would like to purchase.
One issue that you run into with some of the lower levels, J-ish and below, is they're small.
Yeah.
So it takes a lot of those books
Yeah.
for kids to have access to. So it's just, I think it's an ongoing theme for schools to always be thinking about expanding. And plus you have damaged ones that you need to replace.
Correct. And it does help that we do have the subscription, Kids A to Z and Raz Kids, that helps provide us more selection. I do like kids having the opportunity to have books that are digital, but I also like the opportunity to have that paperback book that they can have in their hands as well.
Yeah, they're not damaged, they're worn out.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah.
They've been well used.
There you go. All right, any questions?
How many hours a week would your gifted and talented teacher be?
This last year, the gifted and talented teacher, around 22 to 25 hours.
So then that cuts into your paraprofessionals, those have to be probably less than 20 hours a week each?
They're right around about 20 hours.
Yeah, okay. Last thing I wanted to say about this, so we have these guidelines that we're given as we review. If I might just share with all the principals, it says, if behavioral interventions are included as part of a measurable academic goal, it needs to be clear how they are a necessary component of the action plan. So that's just a guideline.
Yeah, and that's what I referenced earlier.
Yeah, and so we're not saying it's inappropriate, but we're saying, you know, we really got to make sure that we can tie academics to behavioral intervention.
I think in both of the reset rooms that we've seen presented today, Creekview and Castle Heights, they are making the case that the quicker we can get a student back into the classroom, the greater academic impact, you know, on the student. So I think that's part of it, is that they're saying, let's deal with it quickly, not let it fester, and get them back to learning.
But what they've done is they've singled out these behavior intervention students and said, we're going to track their academic performance and make sure that their academic performance is on par.
Yeah.
And so that
Equal
I
to
think
the
it
peers.
fits. Yeah, I think we're great here, but the red flag goes up when they start saying behavior component
Right.
to it. But I think they've done a very good job.
Well, and like I said, at my school, we also do push-in services where we talk with teachers. We see when there's those key times that some of the kids start to need another adult to sit in there with them because they're starting to get off task or whatever. And usually there's key times during the day that it happens. And so we do that push-in service where I schedule my aide to go in, and she might sit for 15 minutes working with that kid in a small group, keeping them on task. It is all under the teacher directed. So it's, I guess, the same help like you would use for a parent volunteer, where you go in, you do what the teacher asks you to do. But again, they're helping that kid, they're helping them stay on task and focusing their attention. And it has made a big difference. I do have a student in first grade that's very challenging on a behavior plan, and the teacher went out on maternity leave for several weeks. And when she came back, she was very pleased with the progress that he had made, considering he's the hardest student that probably all of us have ever dealt with. So it is helping. It is definitely helping.
All right, well, thank you. Let's see if we can't get through the next to Castle Valley Center and Sal Morrow in the next 10 minutes or so we can
Start the other
start
meeting.
with the subcommittee, start with the other meeting.
I
Okay,
bet we can.
you there?
What you said, what?
Are you there, Mike? We can't hear you.
Yeah, sorry about that. Okay. This year, ours is similar to last year, where we have our music instruction. So every Monday, we spend an hour with our students in music. Karen Palmer is our instructor. She's a staff member, and we have her check out and then pay her with trust land money for the time that she takes in music. And then twice a year we perform, once in Christmas, the Christmas time during the holidays, and then also in May as school lets out. Last year we started adaptive PE. One of our staff members, Morgan Krenko, has been doing that. That's been very successful. The students have really enjoyed it. And then we did adaptive art this last year. We actually hired a young man who's a student with autism who has some significant needs. We got through the year, but I think this next year we're going to go another direction and find someone. I won't be there, but that's going to be my recommendation. Do something a little different for art. And then the majority of our trust land money we use to pay aid time for our class where we have significant behavioral challenges with students with autism.
Any questions?
So that class where you have those severe cases with the aid being in there, how many, what's the student to adult ratio?
It's 1-to-1. We have 4 students in there. We have a teacher and 3 aides. We had a teacher and 2 aides, and it just wasn't working well. So we're using part of our trust land money and part of our TSSA money to fund that third aid in there and it's really it's been a good thing. Things have gone as well as we could expect this year.
Okay, good.
All right. Thanks, Mike.
You're welcome.
Okay, Sally Morrow.
All right. So we're continuing to build on 2 of our goals. First one, goal 1, currently 50% of the students are reading independently at a level corresponding to their grade level. Our goal is to see 65% of our students reading independently at a level corresponding to their grade level by spring of 2021. With that, we will continue to fund 2 paraprofessionals for reading intervention. Any questions on goal 1?
No, make it happen.
Goal 2, 80% of the students will show mastery of essential standards in language arts and mathematics, according to the mental model assessments by the end of 2021. So those are still those mental model assessments will be the PLC level tests that was brought up with the school before. With that, we're tying in our music and art parapros. So to basically fund our art specialist and music specialist so that teachers have time to collaborate, analyzing data and planning interventions for that. Questions for number 2?
That's another one where it'd be nice to add that little blurb.
Yeah,
if
I'll
it's not
include
there.
that as well.
Do you have any baseline data for your existing conditions on how many students, what percentage of students show mastery of your essential standards related to your mental models?
I don't from the year before. Hold on, let me check this.
It'll take me a minute to find it, but I have it.
But with that, those essential standards, those mental models are changing every year depending on the students that go into that the teacher receives into the class. That is something that with the 45 days each quarter, teachers will be looking at, reassessing, remaking their new standards for each core
Right.
content they're teaching.
Where I'm going with this though, is if we don't have a base of where these same students were, and we only know where we expect them to go, then how do we know that they've made progress or that they haven't gone backwards?
Because they'll be going from a 3rd to a 4th grade, and the standards are going to be changing per grade.
Okay.
It's not the same students this year will not be assessed on the same standards next year.
No, I understand that. But no, what I'm wondering is, so let's say in spring of 2021, when you do the assessments and you've got 80% of the 4th graders are there. Well, when they were 3rd graders, were they at 70% or were they at 100%? Or were they a gifted group of students? Or did they really make progress? Or, you know what I'm saying? I just don't know. I don't know how to take a measurement off of that goal.
I just don't, and maybe I'm understanding it wrong, but I don't know how we can take a measurement from 3rd grade and take a measurement from 4th grade when the standards are going to be completely different. So the mental models for third grade are going to be different from their mental models in fourth grade. Do you see where
We're measuring essential standards with essential standards. Now, those standards may be different, but the title is the same and the expectation is the same.
Yes.
And I guess so one of the requirements of the goals is that they are measurable. And I don't know if it's,
Yeah, the way this is written, there is no measure.
there's no way to compare now versus the past, or the
That
past
is a
versus the
measurable
future.
goal, because you can determine if 80% met it or not, but
Students
you're
in
talking
that
about having a point of comparison
Yeah,
from the past. I'm trying to find it. I'm having a little bit of a hard
that's
time,
okay.
but
I just
in
bring it up because-
January at the principal data meeting, Blake, you shared that spreadsheet that we had all the principals put together with all the essential standards and, where the students were, the percentage of students who were proficient on each essential standard. I'm having a hard time finding it right now, but we do have that from last year. We have it from January, where they were at in January, and we maintain that every year. So I don't know if you guys looked at that, but we do have that information we could include as a point of comparison.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with what you want to accomplish. I just don't know how to quantify it against what has been achieved.
So much of what we measure in schools is growth. And so that's what we're focusing on. Are the kids growing or are they not growing? And it's a very soft figure. I agree with you on this because the third grade teachers could really ramp up the essential standards and the fourth grade teachers could relax them or vice versa. But there's still a comparison. Now, are these school level or are they district level?
School.
I don't see how, though, if that was his goal and that's how he wanted it, if the state doesn't specifically tell us they have to have a point of comparison, then why can't he keep his goal how he has it?
No, and I'm not saying he can't keep his goal. All I'm saying is how do we know that there was improvement?
Right, and this goal, as it's stating, is not saying that we're gonna measure improvement. We put a mark in the sand and this is what we're going to do.
It's a proficiency goal.
Yeah. And that's why I asked the question, not criticizing the goal, but saying, I don't see how that works.
Melanie and Lance have the same point.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just think that if that's what he wants, it shows us that 80% of those kids have mastery. To me, that makes me happy. I don't think he needs to adjust it just to satisfy somebody that wants a point of comparison. If that's what he really likes, I think it still meets our goal.
Okay, next one. Oh, that is it. Okay, wonderful. It's just about 5 o'clock here, so we're transitioned from work meeting to general meeting.
Could I ask one question of our superintendent before we go on?
Sure.
Lance, this maybe my experience is very different than, maybe there's no comparison, but I know that when I was the, English language arts coach, we had all different grade levels of proficiency in the schools in English. And until the state finally said we had to meet a certain percentage goal, we just couldn't seem to do it. And I just wondered, I was looking at all the reading levels, and they're very, very different in the elementary schools. Reading proficiency goes like 23, 61, 40, 50, 17, whatever. And I just wondered, have you set a goal for the elementary school and said, this is the reading goal that we have as a district? Or does the state say that I don't know what I'm asking you. I'm just saying, I wonder if it's easier to hit a target, even if it seems hard, and when you don't have a target. Does that make sense?
It does make sense, but what I have learned from my experience and from research is that when someone else sets your goal for you, you have a hard time carrying. And so what we focus on is the process. We require data analysis at the school. We require that they go through protocols to look at the data and determine a specific, measurable, attainable, results-oriented, and time-bound goal. And if we were to go in and tell them, here's what your goal is, we take away all of that learning and all that investment that they put into it. And so I understand what you're saying, but when you have Bruin Point as compared to, you know, Castle Heights or something, they're just so different, and there's where they're at right now is different today. So their goal ought to be realistic and attainable based on what they're seeing right now. So that's the reason for why we don't go ahead and do a district-wide goal.
But doesn't there have to be some improvement? I mean, like, I don't know. I guess I think there are differences, but in my experience, although our schools are different and there are factors that affect students like poverty and a lot of other things, we found that our students could achieve at that English level that we had to get at for the state when we finally had one. And I don't know. It just seems like I was looking at the reading levels between these schools, and it's like 23, 61, 40.
You have to be careful not to compare apples to oranges, because some of the goals are talking about, here's where we were at in January. And we're not even supposed to be 100% of students at the end of year level. We're just saying 23% are already at the end of year level. So you compare that to somebody else whose their number is representing what it was last year at the end of the year. Those are two totally different measurements.
And
if they're looking at mid-year to mid-year, that's different than looking at end of year to end of year.
Right. And I understand that I don't have all the data, but I just wondered if you had a goal that you thought all of our schools should meet by a certain end of the year or whatever you said it was. Is there such a thing?
Oh, you're talking about district-wide, not every school having the same goal, but is there a district goal?
Is there a district?
Yes, and that's what we shared with you on the district improvement plan. Let me pull that up really quick just so that I can show that to you.
Well, like, what is our reading goal? I guess is what I'm asking you. What is our district reading goal?
Okay. So let me pull this one over just so that everybody can see it. This is our district improvement plan. And this is taking into consideration the data from the whole district.
Okay.
So not just saying, you know, here's an individual school, but as a whole district, here's what we're looking at. Let me make this a little bigger so everybody can see it.
Thank you.
And this is number 2 is our SMART goal. We focused on first graders going into second grade, so our current second graders and our current third graders.
Okay.
So by the end of 2020, we wanted 80% of our second graders, because they did have 65% last year were reading at level. We wanted to see that jump up to 80. And then last year there were 28% of second graders. So in third grade, we wanted that goal to be 50%. So that's and we focused on that because we noticed that in second grade, we had last year, second grade really struggled. So we wanted to make sure kids coming into second were taken care of. And then those kids who left that were only at 28% at the end of second grade, that they were given, you know, a good boost in third grade. So that was where our attention went and our focus. A lot of the things that we did actually impacted all the grades, but that was the goal.
See, I'm very comforted by that. I just don't think we've ever, or maybe I just have never really seen that or understood it. Maybe at our next meeting, if you had time, if you know, that would be great to just see some more of that. That is neat. I like to see that.
Absolutely.
Okay, thanks, Kristen. Let's move on to our general session. We are meeting as a Carbon School District. It's April 15th, 2020 at 5:05 in the afternoon. All board members are present, either electronically or present, along with the superintendent and business office administrator. If everybody will rise and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Well, we didn't allow anybody to come for recognition. Is there anybody you'd like to call out here, Superintendent? To start with here, and we'll reserve it. I mean, we just had our Sterling Scholars. We did awesome. I think there were only 2 categories that we didn't either place first or second.
Yeah, pretty incredible.
Yeah. Yeah.
We have those names under recognition, so we'll look at those here in just a minute.
All right.
Any other public comments? Just to inform everybody, we invited on Google Meet. So only the only people who can really talk are the ones who we invited on Google Meet. And we invited only really just the people who are going to take part in the meeting, like the principals and everything, with the exception of Chelsea. So she's on. So, you know, just so that everybody knows that we have a voice from Chelsea and pretty much just superintendent's district administration. So.
Okay. All right. Have we received anything by electronic media or
The only chat comment that's come from Chris Winfrey at the inning.
Okay. All righty.
Oh, and Bruce that was.
Thanks for that, Superintendent. We appreciate all the efforts going into making this happen under our extraordinary circumstances at this particular time. We'll reevaluate, see if we can't be better in May. How we do this, depending on what the social requirements are at that particular time and what we're comfortable with.
And you know, what we're experiencing today is a lot of what our teachers have been experiencing, you know, just this learn as you go kind of a thing, and we'll get better at it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's well, I'll get to that. So go ahead with the recognition here.
Okay, thank you. Wish we could have these kids here today, but we just want to give a
Holy
shout out
cow.
to all of our awesome Sterling Scholars. If you look at this is pretty impressive. You can see, let me just make this a little bigger so everybody can see a little better. But
And Alexis isn't here, so I could embarrass her as much as
you want.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we have a winner column and a runner-up column, and 2 runners-up. So you can see if you go down the winner column, we had Alexis Chappelle with social sciences win that category. Brock Morris in science, Dallin Nelson in music, Ashlyn Baker in English, James Briner in business and marketing, Summer Atherley, Family and Computer Science. And then we have Sydney Sandoval for dance and Emily Jesperson, computer technology. Pretty impressive showing. If you know, I mean, we almost swept the whole thing. It seems like, you know, so.
Well, if you look at first runner up,
Yeah.
then it becomes even more impressive.
So yeah, first runner up, we have Abby Sacamano, who was there for math. And then who else do we have? Jace Draper for skilled and technical ed. Caitlin Vasquez for world language. Tristan Stamatakis with forensics and speech. So pretty amazing showing. Can't say enough about what exemplary students these are, and what an amazing showing representation of our district.
Okay, and then we have science fair.
Okay, so science fair. This is from the state science fair. So you can see that under animal science, we had a second place, Cheyenne Slaughter, and a fourth place, Sadie Johnson. Behavioral and social science, first place, Madeline Johnson. And by the way, she ended up being the top student in the science fair and received this really awesome scholarship because of her amazing projects. So that's pretty outstanding. And computer science, second place, Emily Jesperson. And then earth science, we have a first place, Mike Banaski, and fourth, Jaron Dixon. Energy and transportation, third place, Carson Frame. Engineering, electricity and mechanical, first place, Jeremiah Eisen, and fifth place, Jackson Smith. Engineering, materials and bioengineering, first place, Russell Seeley.
Now, wait a minute, he's a city engineer. That's crazy, right?
Or he's got a son.
Yeah.
Yeah, he shouldn't be entering this. So great job there, first place. And then mathematical science, first place, James Briner.
Now, that's interesting within the mathematics science side. Now the Briners are starting instead of the social science side.
Yeah.
That Briner family, look out.
Microbiology, fifth place, Merrick Morgan. And then physics and astronomy, first place, Grace Broadbear. Second place, Brock Morris. And fifth place, Daniel Scalgarn. And then International Science and Engineering Fair and SUU Scholarship winner. That's what I mentioned before. So International Science and Engineering Fair winner won the SUU Scholarship. Maddie had an outstanding showing there. So all of them did amazing. We thought the numbers there were a lot of kids winning at the regional. So we didn't bring those to you, but had no idea we were going to see so many do so well at the state level as well. So pretty awesome.
Well, thank you and congratulations, both to the advisors and teachers and parents that helped us along the way, but right smack in the bullseye of those students. Our gratitude goes out to them for their dedication and abilities. Okay, let's go to board member reports. Let's start with our electronic participants. Lee, are you there?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Ron, yes, we can hear you.
Okay. My only question is, I wanted to know where we were at with negotiations. Is anything been set up or how that's going to happen?
Well, we had some things set up. But we've been informed by the state that with the upcoming, actually tomorrow, the special session, I watched an interview with one of the leadership, I can't remember his name actually, from the legislature, but they're indicating that they're anticipating that the funding that came out of the original legislative session will definitely be altered in the special session. There's going to be a few special sessions, one of them tomorrow, and then at least one more toward the end of the month, early May. So what we have decided to do, at least, we don't believe there's any point in having conversations without having the numbers. So we would like to postpone negotiations. We have tentatively scheduled those to be, let me pull that up really quick. We're looking at May 18th and 19th if necessary. And then prior to that, May 11th for that meeting where we would get everybody together, kind of a pre-negotiation meeting where we would have everybody just receiving information from Darren about the numbers. We should have numbers by then. If we don't, we'll have to push it off even later.
Okay, and then we'll have to have some meeting with the board members prior to that.
Yeah, we'll have our May board meeting.
Yeah, our May board meeting is scheduled for the 13th currently.
13th, yeah.
So we'll have enough time to talk then. Okay,
Yeah.
that's all I had.
Chelsea, are you okay with that too?
Yes, we have rescheduled. We'll see what happens in the special session. I hope they let us know quickly so that we can move things forward.
Gotcha. Yeah, don't we all agree?
Yeah.
Yeah, teachers have enough stress on their plate, let alone wondering what in the world's going to happen with the budget.
That's right.
Okay, Melanie.
I've just been hearing from parents, grandparents. A lot of them have expressed a lot of gratitude towards the teachers and the homework system. A lot of them, some still come to me with questions and frustrations. And I guess my other question too is towards the superintendent, like, what are some of the concerns that the teachers are having, struggles that they're having? I'm sure it's a lot same as the parents are having with, like, a lot of the parents that have come to me, you know, they're still having to work. And so they're working with their kids and homework while they're having to work, and they're tired, and their frustrations with kids that have IEP normally, and now they're having to spend a lot of time with them. And I've given a lot of reassurance that, you know, whatever they're doing is good. And they're also very supportive of the teachers, but they have their frustrations too. And so I'm sure that the teachers do. So I just wondered, maybe you'll touch a little bit about what they're saying or what they're feeling and what they're having to do daily.
Thank you. That is my superintendent report. So if you want to wait for that, or I could jump into that right now, whatever.
You can't have, when you have a lead in like that, jump in.
Jump in.
The
Okay.
introduction.
All right. Well, I'm going to share my window again. Break away from everyone's faces for a moment. So I'll go down to superintendent report, and you all should be able to see this. So I just wanted to go over the response to coronavirus. And first of all, this is a massive change. We have had to change the way we feed students. And by the way, we are feeding almost 1,000 more meals now than we were on a typical day during the school year.
Excuse me for just a second.
Please, yeah.
That number, as I contemplated, and this is part of my report to Balance Rock Eatery, and I'm sure there are other examples of that. But as you look at the number of students at Sally Morrow and the number of students at Helper Middle School that they stepped in to take care of, we ought to get an attaboy to those, particularly them that I know of, but any of the other ones that participated. We really need to recognize that because they sure make our community proud.
Just incredible.
When
Just
you look
incredible.
at that 1,000 meals or more, so if you figure that 2 meals a day for those two schools, they're in that number range.
Yeah.
Right there.
I also want to quickly add, I've talked with other people who don't have kids in the school system. They're younger, but they've really appreciated the fact that their neighbors encourage them to go to their bus for their small children that will be in our school system that aren't. So I know that they're very grateful for the opportunity to have those meals.
Yeah, it's been an incredible thing to see on top of Balance Rock, which I am blown away at their generosity, but also Emory Telecom with their willingness to say, if you don't have internet, you will when we get done. All you have to do is give us a call. Amazing. Our community is incredible. We've also had to change the way we teach. And students have had to change the way they access learning activities. We've had to change the way we collaborate. We've had to change. So I just want to show you these pictures because they represent a lot. Think about what goes into this. We've got paraprofessionals and teachers working together and collaborating to develop packets. We have teachers developing online curriculum and figuring out how to use tools that they have never used before. We have tech department who is answering phones 24/7 from teachers and others who are having issues. And when a Chromebook goes down out in the community, what happens? Well, our tech department figures out a way to solve the problem. And you look at parents who are trying to balance their own work and still encourage their students to keep focused and engaged. So these pictures, there's a lot going on from a lot of different aspects. The other thing, these pictures here just indicate, we think about the bus driver who now is driving for a whole different purpose. And we have stories of students who miss school so much that when they see their bus driver, they just light up with joy because there's somebody from school. Or when they see an aide, I received information about Blake Allen, Principal Allen, going out on the buses and delivering. And when the kids saw him, they just about freaked out. They were so excited to see their principal. And so this has been awesome. And then we went to one of the kitchens and saw all of the intense work that goes into filling these bags with food. And they have to do it so quickly because you've got breakfast and then you immediately have lunch, it seems like. And our lunch workers and our paraprofessionals who now have been assigned to work in the kitchens, they're working their tails off. And so between those two groups, really stepping up. So
look at all those sacks. Holy cow.
Yeah, that's not even all of them.
Yeah.
So we want to say thank you, first of all, to the school board. We have felt an extreme level of support from you every step of the way. Teachers have stepped up like we never dreamed, just inventing things and coming up with ideas. And to answer Melanie's question, we have a lot of concern about our teachers. They are, many of them working 12 hours, 14 hours a day. And sometimes the only time to make contact with kids is in the evening. Many of our teachers have kids at home that they're managing and trying to help them do what they need to do. And on top of all of that, they're concerned about social distancing and how do I navigate getting the groceries that I need. And you know, the list goes on and on. So the stress levels are extremely high. We are hearing from students. We have tried to address, you know, some initial issues about workload, which I think by and large we've been able to, you know, very successfully deal with. So we hear from students, we hear from all of our employees regularly about what's going on. Our principals, we do a principal check-in almost every day. And so we hear from our principals and how things are going out there. And many of the things that we do are a response to what we're hearing. Administrators have stepped up to change everything as well. They are jumping on to collaborative meetings. They're checking, you know, to see what teachers need and how they can be supported. Paraprofessionals are helping to put packets together, but they're also working in the lunchrooms. They're on the buses. We're just having them do all kinds of things. Some of them are sanitizing in the schools. Our custodial staff, we put them in charge early of putting an extreme focus on germ elimination and sanitizing. Their response has been outstanding. Our bus drivers never hesitated. They jumped in the bus and just started driving food. Our food service people, again, have been amazing. Our technology people have responded with amazing speed. Our secretaries are facing the challenge of having to, you know, run schools from home, and they're doing an excellent job. Our business office has had to continually make adjustments to, you know, well, how are we going to pay these people? These paraprofessionals are no longer working in their Title I capacity, so they're working for foods now. So we're going to need to pay them from the foods budget, and so there's just a lot of adjusting and changing that needs to happen all the time. So we just express a lot of appreciation to really everyone in the whole organization. There's really no place that's not a bright spot. Now, moving ahead, it's pretty devastating when you get the news as a teacher, as a student, that you're not coming back. You're not going to be in the same room with all these students again, or with your peers. So we are currently making plans for what does that look like after May 1st. We believe things need to be a little different. They should be a little different. In a regular school year, May is full of review and assessment, review for the assessment and taking the assessment, and activities, field trips, and all kinds of things. So we believe May should be a little different. We're working on a plan that we'll be presenting to principals tomorrow for feedback. And, you know, we're just making daily efforts to respond to the issues that come up. It seems like regularly we get thrown another curveball. And so just a lot of responding to that. I don't know if that helps to answer your question, Melanie, but.
Yes, thank you. That was good. And you know, we've had that conversation with, you know, in our household and on the street that I've seen at work. You know, they're used to May as being the field trips and the fun, and, you know, and maybe incorporate that daily engagement. But like you said, that will be great. That it'll make it a little different.
Yeah. So that's our goal. So I think by the end of this week, we should be able to, you know, send out to everybody, you know, here's what we want to do for May.
I also, you know, we've had a couple of the classrooms that had their kids writing letters to our residents at the nursing home, and they have become pen pals, and it's been pretty neat to see that because our residents have been very excited about that. And then also with a lot of the community members donating items to a lot of places around town, I think that they've involved their children a lot in that. And I think I just nice community that they really stepped up.
Are you still there? You get cut off, Melanie?
No,
All right, Kristen.
I just wanted to follow up with thanking both Cindy and Clay Smith they are the people at Balance Rock. And it was an incredible thing that they did. And there were a lot of community people who stepped up and made donations, financial donations to make that possible. And so it really was a community effort and it was great. And Cindy spearheaded that. The thing that I think is really the greatest about all of the food service that the district is doing is that I hear that on Facebook, there's lots of collaboration among parents because when they don't like things like strawberry milk, they put it out there and they offer it up to people and people come and they all get what everybody wants.
All right, Jeff.
Yeah, and I agree with all that's been said about the community and about the staff throughout the district. But I do have a question, and I don't know if there's been some discussion about it, but I think we need to come up with a plan for high school graduation.
It's been, the high school with their student body officers have been working on that. And I don't know, Chris, if you want to take a minute to share some of the ideas that have percolated.
Yeah, I can. That's fine. So we have a team. Gail Scoville usually is the one who's over graduation, and so she's jumped on this early and has been collaborating with teachers and others to put together a plan for graduation. And we're really looking at two graduation ceremonies and offering both to students who can attend either one or both. Our concern is that we want to make sure we still celebrate graduation on May 21st, that there is something for those students on that day of their actual graduation that they can still commemorate that day, knowing that it won't be the same as a normal graduation ceremony. But then we also wanted to have what would be a more typical graduation ceremony at whatever point coronavirus allows us to get people together. That may be later in the summer, and if that is, we may have some students who've already gone away to college or things like that. And so we wanted to have both options, and students who are here can attend both options or one or the other. So the option one on the 21st, what we're looking at right now, there's a lot of different things that I've seen other schools doing with drive-through style graduations, and this isn't in complete detail yet, but basically, we're going to pre-record the keynote speaker, pre-record the valedictorian, salutatorian, and any of those speeches that will be made. We'll pre-record those, put together a DVD with music and everything. Any choir performances. The choir can't get together and sing right now, so our fellow's looking at ways to be creative. Maybe get choir members on their computers and let them sing and compile something. But we want to put together a DVD that we can then give to all of the seniors as a keepsake that they can have to still have those moments and those memories. We're still going to use our photographer that would have taken pictures at the actual graduation ceremony. And what we have planned right now is that we'll ask the seniors to get in their cap and gown. If they have family members that they live with, that they're already quarantined with, that want to join them in their cars, we'll have it spaced out alphabetically. They can drive up to the school. They'll drive around the side of the school by the football field, and a member of the administration would meet them there and hand them a sanitized version of their folder that they would keep their diploma in. And then they will drive around the back of the school, and we're asking teachers to space themselves out around the back of the school in their caps and gowns with signs congratulating the seniors and let the seniors drive around behind the school and celebrate with cheers from their teachers and staff. And then they'll pull around to the front of the school and park their car right in front of the big carbon brick walls that are across the front of the school that spell carbon. And the senior can step out of their car in their cap and gown, and we'll have the professional photo taken of them right there in their cap and gown. And then we'll have an envelope put together that has the official program, their diploma, the DVD in it, and that will be mailed out to them so that they will still have all of that. That's the ceremony that we want to have on the 21st. Then right now we're looking at a cutoff date of July 24th. If the state lets us get together before July 24th, we'll do something in the summer before that. If they say we can't get together until after July 24th, we're tentatively talking about doing a graduation ceremony during homecoming week as something where we can invite seniors back from wherever they might be, if they can, to come and participate in more of an official homecoming, but we'd like to do it on the football field and invite families at no charge to sit up in the stands and then have the seniors down on the track and actually have more of a formal where they walk across the podium and are presented with what would be a mock diploma. They would already have a real diploma at that point in time. So those are the ideas. We've also talked about the possibility. I was in conversation with KOAL Radio today, and they volunteered to actually broadcast the ceremony live over the radio. We're talking with ETV about the possibility of putting it live streaming, the drive-through ceremony, so family members outside the area can tune in live and listen to it being done on the radio as well as streamed live over the TV or over the internet. So those are some things we're looking at putting together as well. Nothing is completely set in stone, but those are the ideas we have right now. We want to make sure that our seniors still feel loved and celebrated. We actually just today had a student who redesigned the carbon logo. In fact, if you go to our school website right now, you can see that redesigned carbon logo with the stars and stripes as part of it. And we've got a T-shirt that Anthony Chili's putting together that says Carbon Strong, Class of 2020 with that logo on it. And we would like to actually purchase one for every senior and give that to them as a gift to just thank them for everything that they've done for Carbon High School over their 4 years here. So those are our ideas right now.
Okay, thanks. Very good.
Great.
I think it's become very evident the large part that education plays for these kids. I mean, they may all joke that says, hey, school's out for the summer, right? There's a song from about 35 years ago that says that school's out for the summer. But I've seen some heartbreak because they're not going back to school.
I've had grandchildren that are completely devastated.
Yeah.
Yesterday was not a happy day in the Woodward family. That's for sure.
My kids are the same, and I think that's what we hear that almost unanimously. Even the kids who said before they hated school wish they could go to school tomorrow.
On another note, just to throw that out, I think that there's teachers that are feeling just as heartbroken about the same scenario. They need the closure too.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'm hearing it very strong from teachers. The fact that they didn't get to say goodbye is killing them. So,
Well, and it also then does lean into maybe we can plan a retirement banquet for later in the summer, whenever we get back together, for those who have retired or are retiring this summer or this year. Some kind of a recognition for the future.
on that note, as part of my report that I'd like to bring up to the board right here, I would like the board to be a little proactive. Today I had an assignment to put up signs, lawn signs, the political lawn sign type things around the hospital that said heroes work here. And I would like the board to take the initiative then to get signs made, lawn signs that we can take around and put on all of our personnel, district personnel lawns that say our school heroes work here.
Or live
Or
here.
live here, yeah, live here.
Live and work.
Yeah, live and work. Well, yeah, work here is very poignant to the point. But is that all right with the board? Could you
Yeah,
hang in there with me to make that happen?
I can't imagine it being any kind of a expense to worry about, so I'd volunteer whatever time it takes to go place them on lawns.
Yeah.
Can I add one more thing too? I know that the question has been put out there, so just if board members, if anyone asks the question of you, we obviously are going to plan a graduation, but the other thing that we have committed to not letting go by the wayside is prom. And I know junior prom and senior prom for a lot of our students is big. So we've made the commitment already that no matter when we have to do it, if it's later in the summer or whatever, we will still have a prom so that our juniors can do their promenade with their parents and all of that kind of stuff. So if anyone asks that of you as well, you can let them know that that is something we will not just let go by the wayside. And Melissa already asked me if we can throw, I'm going to quote Melissa. She said she would like to still have her big ass retirement party, no matter when she has to have it. So Carbon's going to have our retirement party later on in the summer as well.
All right. Well, thank you. Darren, part of my report, I gave you an assignment. My concern is, not my concern, my interest is, tell us how this affects our this year's school budget. Are our revenues different? Is the state doing anything different? What? Tell us.
At this point, we're being held harmless by the state and being encouraged to hold our employees harmless. And so we are keeping all of our employees engaged in one way or another. And those that aren't able to get all of the hours that they would normally get, we're holding them harmless and continuing to pay them as we would. So budgetarily, that's our biggest item is salaries and benefits. And so we're right where we would have been normally.
That's what I was hoping you were going to say, is both with support coming from the state, but then we were stepping up, taking care of employees. Okay.
Yeah, the biggest question as far as funds that we receive has been the federal funds that are always, the state was very quick to contact the districts and give us reassurances. Federal funds are always, there's more question about how they'd be handled. Right now, it appears the state has gotten all the waivers that they need, or that we need in order to be able to continue paying our employees through federal funds as well. For us, federal funds aren't a big percentage of our revenues, but it's still significant. We have a lot of employees paid through federal funds. So right now that looks good as well. Where we're saving cost is in instructional supplies to some degree. We're still putting out packets and things, but our spending isn't at the same level that it would normally have been. We had for a while a higher, we were running a little bit higher on custodial supplies. I'm not sure if that'll continue, but where we don't have students in the building, but while we had employees up until just recently, in our schools, there was a strong focus on sanitation and custodial. Of course, transportation is still running as normal, running those bus routes, but we won't have the trips. So there'll be a slight dip in transportation funding, or not funding, sorry, in transportation expenses. So we're in good shape. There's also some money that are being funneled to the districts through the stimulus package. So
We don't have the exact numbers on that yet, but we're being told roughly 2/3 of what we would normally get from Title I, which will really help us to deal with some of the upcoming costs associated with this.
All right, any other questions from the board members concerning any of that? Okay, if not, let's move on to the information items and start with flex time at the high school.
Okay, we'll let Chris do this little presentation. Chris, I'm just going to let you go. Can you see what I see?
Yes, yeah, that's fine. I can see that. So I'm not going to read word for word because that's boring, but I'll just give you the summarized version. And if you have any questions, please feel free to ask. We obviously going into this year, we're very committed to providing Tier 2 interventions for all students at Carbon to have the opportunity to receive Tier 2 interventions. And so as we met with our leadership team at the beginning of the year, or before school started, we put into place this flex period during the day. And as we've gone throughout the year, we've made adjustments to try to make it more effective each quarter as we've gone on and evaluated the data and met with the leadership team and met with the teachers and students and heard from parents and all kinds of things. And so we're making changes every quarter and then again looking into next year. So the top here is just it's the pyramid of intervention, RTI support that Mike Matos and other experts have come up with. This version is just kind of a simplified version, but it breaks down the 3 levels. Tier 1 instruction is your core instruction, and that generally meets the needs of 80% of your students. It's your preventative, proactive, your general instruction that you give to all students. And then the Tier 2 instruction or intervention is your more targeted students. And usually that encompasses about 15% of the students whose needs are met by that Tier 2. And some key things is it needs to be highly efficient and it needs to be given in a timely manner, rapidly. You can't wait until months down the road to provide that level of intervention. And then the Tier 3, that's your much more intensive intervention, and that's for that 5% of your super high risk students who need a more targeted, long-term type of intervention to teach at a level that facilitates and meets their needs. So we kind of use that model to create the Tier 2 time that we have. Lance, if you'll scroll down a little bit there. Just some data for the board to kind of have an idea of where we're at. We went and took an average number of students that are being served by flex time each quarter. So this is based off of the attendance that teachers take when they either request students for flex or students come in on their own. The teachers take attendance and then we track all that data. So during the first quarter, we saw an average of 135 students per day that were participating in flex, going to the classes, being retaught, retaking tests, working on homework, whatever the need was. We made some adjustments going into second quarter that we thought would maybe up that number. One of the main adjustments was we created little slips that we wrote students' names on, what flex they had. Those were delivered to students before the flex period. We thought that would help encourage students to attend more frequently. It didn't really have much of an impact. You can see at second quarter, we actually went down a little bit in our average to 132 students per day. So we took that information back to the leadership team. And then in third quarter, Mr. Hardy was able to develop a system that actually takes the flex information each morning, puts it into a program, and we're able to sort out which students are assigned flex that day and which 5th or 6th period class they are in. And then that information is given to each teacher for 5th or 6th period. And so they can see in their class, these 7 students are assigned flex somewhere. It's not for just that teacher. So wherever they may be assigned in the building. And so the teachers then would read that off at the end of the period, identify the students, okay, you've been assigned flex. And so we dismiss the students who aren't assigned flex to leave, clear the halls, get them out, and then we dismiss the flex students, and the teachers are in the halls helping get them to where they're supposed to be. We did see a pretty marked improvement between second and third quarter, where we averaged about 147 students per day. That's approximately an 11% increase of students attending. And then for fourth quarter, we had in place a plan developed by our leadership team to add flex to our PBIS system. So with our Dino Dollars that we do, that we're going to be doing through Hero, students would receive Dino Dollars for attending flex. And so that was an incentive for them to go and attend. And so they could use those Dino Dollars at the end of the week or the month or whenever they wanted to purchase gear from our store, you know, carbon gear, gift cards, event tickets, pizza, whatever the case may be. That was ready to roll out for fourth quarter, and then obviously our fourth quarter was taken away. And then if you'll scroll down, Superintendent, just moving forward into next year, just a couple of areas of focus that we wanted to make sure we address. One is we wanted to try and add another level of incentive, I guess, for students to attend flex. And so we wanted to actually add that as part of an academic grade. And so, for example, this is just an example. If for, say, a biology class had 1,500 points, and I'm making up numbers here, over first quarter, including tests, quizzes, assignments, whatever, we would ask the teacher to add 100 points for flex, enough to have an impact on a student's grade. If the student is never required to go, they keep up with their assignments, they get good grades, they're never required by the teacher to attend, they would get all 100 points. It would be a boost to their grade and help them out. If they are assigned to go to flex and they attend, they would receive portions of those points for each time they attend, amounting to the 100. If they were only required to come twice and they attend twice, they get all 100. If they're required to go 30 times and they attend all 30, they would get 100 or a portion. Students who do not attend flex then would not receive the portion of those points that they would have received had they attended. The thought behind it is the students see the benefit from the intervention, which there's data that we've seen that it's really benefited a lot of students, but also they can receive an additional extra points for attending. So if you have a student who, let's say, sits at that C plus B minus range, they go to flex, they're retaught, they retake a test, and they bump up a little bit, they're going to get an even bigger bump because they attended, and so that could be a bigger benefit or a bigger detriment to their grade. The other one we wanted to deal with was teachers and just making sure that we reiterate the expectation. It's taken a while for teachers to adjust to what we expect flex to be. So going into next year, the clear expectation is all teachers participate each day, no exceptions. We're going to utilize our paraprofessionals to help out with some of our lunch duty, lunch supervision that some teachers have been doing in the past to allow the teachers to be in their classes. And this will also become part of the teacher's evaluation. And so failure to participate in flex would result in an official written letter of reprimand in a teacher's file if they aren't participating. This is an expected thing that all teachers would provide for students. But we want to help facilitate that. So we also will be using our paraprofessionals. I mentioned that to help at lunch. The teacher teams meet every Monday as part of their TLC time, discuss the needs of flex, evaluate data. We're going to do training on all of this for the teachers. But the idea being that, let's say you have 4 biology teachers and they've taught the content that week, common content, they've given common assessment. They can meet on Monday and say, okay, I will take the 40 kids who just need to redo the work, and it'll just be a period where they can work. Then you two can take the other 20 who need to be retaught, divide them into smaller groups, and work with them to reteach them. That way they can utilize the skills that they have to better meet the needs of the students. We also have teachers who don't always need to have a flex because their students are caught up or depending on what they teach. And so those teachers will provide a homework flex period where students who just need time to get some homework done with a teacher in the room can go and they can be with those teachers so that the classroom teachers don't have to try to manage re-instructing students along with trying to answer questions for students who have homework questions. So that's kind of the flex plan with some data from this year and what we're looking at moving forward. And then, you don't have to read through this now, but we asked teachers to give us some feedback from them on flex, as well as some specifics on students. And you can scroll through that and kind of see where what the students and teachers are saying. Scroll down just a hair right there, Lance, and you can see there in bold. This is from Cami Carlson, but she talked about a student, for example, that was having a hard time writing defensible claim, that established a line of reasoning for the argumentative essay. He came to Flex, was able to slow it down. She could give him examples, and it didn't take very long for the light bulb to go off, and he was off and writing and succeeding. Another example later on talks about a student who missed a week of school because he was ill. He was able to use Flex to get caught up within just a couple of days, and he was back to caught up with everything he had to do, instead of having to wait week after week after week of trying to catch up after school, meeting with teachers, and those kinds of things. So there's more on there, and you're welcome to read through those on your own as well. Okay, that's all I have. If you have any questions.
Great outline. Looking forward to the future. Glad that you're evaluating and reinventing and moving on.
So what do you see as the greatest weakness to this program of Flex Time?
Honestly, the greatest weakness is trying to motivate the unmotivated student. It's the same challenge that every teacher deals with every day in class. You know, we have students who come to school and do nothing, and we try to motivate them to work. Those same students are the ones who the teachers are saying, come to Flex. We will help you. We will give you extra support and extra time. Our challenge is trying to find a way to motivate those students. You know, just trying to get them to come to school sometimes is challenging enough, but when they're there, getting them to come to Flex and see the value in it. The students who see the value in it and use it, love it. The students who don't think it's worth their time, those are the ones that we're still trying to find ways to motivate, but we are determined to not give up on those kids ever and continue to work to find ways to support them as well.
There's a bit of an elephant in the room, and I'm just gonna, because I'm a blunt individual like that. I think the board members have recognized that we're running out of carrots, and especially effective carrots. And by changing from one incentive to another, whatever you want to call it, and I mean, offering extra points for being there is another way of saying you get extra credit for going to Flex Time. And where that may work for some, for too many others, we don't seem to be able to positively influence them or motivate them to perform. And so that's kind of where we're wondering, at what point do we take different measures?
So let me just try to address that a little bit. And obviously we understand.
Sorry, I had to change my system. We understand that there's a need there. You know, we've done a lot of research as we've looked into this to try to find, you know, what's the way to help students. And, you know, research has shown that consequences for some students help, and for some, they don't care. You know, no matter how many consequences you throw at them, it won't matter. So we've looked at positive ways as well as some that have a little bit more detriment. The adding the points to their grade, for those that attend, it's great. For those that don't attend, it will continually negatively affect a grade. So, for example, you have a student who's I'm going to skate by with a D, but if they don't attend Flex, they may not pass at all because those Flex points will be taken away. And so that is a negative consequence that seems to fit the more natural side of you didn't get the extra support academically, so it's going to affect that academic grade. One of the challenges we run into, and I'll be blunt and honest too, on any given day, if we have 40 students that, let's say, didn't attend Flex, we tried at the beginning of the year to say those 40 students have lunch detention the next day. Trying to get those 40 students to come to lunch detention was a challenge. We tried to run around the building and grab them before they could make their way out the door. They ran. We started having parents who actually would call in and excuse their kids from flex. They call the attendance office. On any given day, we have a dozen parents who call the attendance office and say, yeah, I understand my students assigned flex. I want to excuse them from flex. And I don't know how to fight that fight with parents and tell them you can't excuse your student from flex. They have to attend. So we recognize that that is a challenge, and we want to continue to work with that. We're talking with the leadership team about ways to see if we can catch students before they leave to try and prevent them from leaving. We have students who will walk out early and just head out the door. We're trying different ways. And in all honesty, we have some students, I won't use a name, but we have a student, he's a senior. He's a very, very large student, a big, strong young man. His math teacher is not a big lady. She has had him in flex every day. She has stood at the door and said, you can't leave. He has said, get out of my way. And he pushes right past her and walks out the door. And we've tried having Officer Alton get involved. It gets ugly. And so we're trying to avoid some of those conflicts too. So we absolutely recognize what the board is asking of us, and we are trying to address that in as many ways as we can.
There's a lot of devils and a lot of advocates in this room. And I just sort of like to speak to all those kids that are at the other end of the spectrum. And those kids don't really need to go to flex. And we don't really consider that at all either. And it's not that any kid can't benefit from extra time with the teacher, but a lot of those students really honestly don't need that kind of time. They need time in an advanced educational class. And I'm not sure how I feel about that. Some of these kids, we're sacrificing kids at the top too, to get what you need for the other kids. And that's not exactly fair either.
Can I say something here about Kristen's point? When you look at the day of the school, in order to put flex in, you have to take a few minutes out of each class.
Right.
It ends up being about 4 or 5 minutes out of a class period in order to offer flex. Those advanced students aren't missing out on their advanced coursework. They're still in the advanced coursework within their regular schedule. It is a sacrifice of about 4 or 5 minutes per class period in order to offer the flex, but when you think of what they gain on the other side of that, it's a tremendous amount more than that, because as a teacher, in order to provide tier 2, you're dealing with the grade level content barriers from right now. Tier 3 is different. Tier 3 is prerequisite skills. It's things that we can't make up in just a few minutes of time. But tier 2, right now, you either didn't understand something, or maybe you had, a track meet and you missed school and you just need time to catch up. Maybe you had the flu. Maybe you just needed to hear it again, or be in a small group or something. And if you think about, Kristen, when you were teaching and you have, 35 kids in your English class, when we're dealing with content from today, it's impossible for you to get around to all of those kids that have those different needs. So if I even take 10 minutes at the end of class every day, it's not enough time to get to everyone. I have to get to the ones who just need it in a different way. I have to get to the ones who missed illness. And there's not enough time to do that. And that's taking 10 minutes out of each class period to do that. We're taking less than half of that time. And now we're able to say, all of the kids who missed for an illness or for an extracurricular, you come in on Tuesday, we'll give you the assessment you missed. We'll give you the work that you missed to get caught up. But Wednesday, out of my 250 kids I teach, I'm going to pull the 15 that missed the same skill throughout all the periods that I have those kids, and I can pull them into a homogeneous group of kids who are missing the exact same skill. It's a much more efficient way to address those deficiencies than trying to do it in class, because that's You either do it during class or you do it during a flex time. And I'd be happy anytime to sit down and kind of talk through that with anyone. We studied that tremendously before we implemented it in Helper. And we were really careful about the sacrifice and time. But as a secondary teacher, when you've got 35 more coming in 10 minutes, you can't get to everyone within the class period. And as the mother of 2 kids who don't necessarily need flex that often, they use flex. They don't go every day, but they go when they miss for extracurriculars. They're very busy, they're active, they're involved in sports and other things, and they have used flex all year, and they have used it well to keep their grades up, to keep their understanding up. And I just ran at 142 students a day in the 4 days of flex. That's 568 students a week that are being positively impacted by flex. That's more than half the student body. So
That's- but isn't there an opportunity isn't this also an opportunity that we could take that time and do something beyond the curriculum for those kids that don't need it, that may?
We could explore that. The problem is, especially at Carbon, you already are in those tracks. So if you're an advanced placement student, if you're an honors student, you're already in concurrent enrollment, AP courses, honors classes. You're already involved in all the different clubs, the National Honor Society, and debate, and any other of the bunch of stuff we have available for them. So they're still getting those rich experiences, and having it during a flex time feels like more homework. Like, okay, I already did everything you asked me to do. I have a 4.0. I'm involved in all these other things. Now you're pulling me into flex too to do more work and more things. It becomes almost a punishment for those kids rather than a good thing for them.
Can I address Kristen's point really quickly also? So there was 2 things I wanted to say. Number one, flex is offered for every AP class, every concurrent enrollment class. So our top end students are still getting the support they need to succeed in their top end classes. One of the challenges I've seen with trying to offer enrichment courses for students and saying, you all need to stay and pick an enrichment course to go to is, in order for, I'll use Doug Morris, for example. In order for Doug Morris to offer flex to either a chemistry or, let's say, a concurrent enrollment physics teacher, he has to be available in his classroom. He can't be offering that flex, the intervention to students at the same time as he might be offering an extension. So our goal was that all teachers would be involved in offering tier 2 intervention for students. And in order to do that, we don't have any additional teachers to offer anything else. And we're talking about 750 to 800 students a day who don't need intervention. We wouldn't have anywhere to put them in order to offer any other kinds of extensions if we went that route. Those are 2 of my concerns.
I would add, as 2 kids who use flex extensively, they are much more better served with flex than another class period. My kids are not looking for adding another enrichment activity, but they both use flex extensively, and I think they might be in that group that you classified as not needing it.
Okay, the bottom line, I guess, has to be, does flex really work for the kids that need it? Are we really getting those grades up of that group of kids that we need to get to? That has to be the bottom line. Is that happening?
Yes, and I'll for the sake of the board, I will gather some data on specific students. We started putting that together where we looked at students, seniors who notoriously have struggled year after year after year. It's not 100% apples to apples because who knows what life changes may have affected them. But to look at their academics over the course of the years, freshman, sophomore, junior, and then to see how they're doing this year. And I can put that data together, but we've shown that students who, have always averaged a 2.5 GPA freshman, sophomore, and junior year. They're getting a 2.7 or a 2.9 or a 3.0 or whatever this year because they've been able to, at least from what we can see, these are students who are going to Flex all the time, being retaught, retaking tests, redoing assignments to get their grades up that didn't have that opportunity before. So I can put some of that data together if you'd like that and share that with the board.
I think that would be very helpful to us. Thank you.
Okay, I would love to do that. Absolutely.
I still have a little bit of a question in my mind though. A year ago, we closed the Lighthouse High School. And we were assured that those 80 or 85 students wouldn't be lost. They would receive extra focus, extra attention because of this intervention. And they were going to be successful. So I guess along with your data, I'm wondering,
Yeah, show us the data.
can those who were juniors last year and were credit deficient, how are they now? Have they improved? Those who were sophomores last year at Lighthouse and are juniors now, have they improved? Are they still credit deficient? Have their GPAs gone up?
Yeah, we will be happy to add some of those in. Obviously, the big number to start with is of the 65 students that would have come to Carbon, only less than 40 of them actually enrolled in Carbon. Some of them went to other schools. So that's going to skew that number a little bit. And I know Karen's here. She can speak to some specific students that she knows who've been at the Lighthouse who are at Carbon this year. Karen, if you have any, success stories that you can share right now, but we'd be happy to put together some of that data. There's no way to know specifically to say it was because of Flex that helped that student. There's obviously a lot of things that go into play for helping those students succeed, but I'd be happy to try to get that data together for you.
Right, if you'll de-identify the data, but we'd like to see those students, not just a representative sample. We want to see those students. And we were very concerned at that particular time with what was going to happen to them, and I think we really need follow-up.
Okay, yeah, I'll get you the data. One thing too, I'll just give to you right now, as we're preparing schedules and calendars for next year, we're already in the process of getting our matrix created for next year. The language arts and math department have gotten together and they've come to us and we're excited about it, but we will actually be offering a tier 3 level class for those students who really do struggle on a regular basis. So that top 5% that maybe were struggling before ended up at the Lighthouse and are back. So for example, like for a 9th grade language arts student, the options for language arts instruction would be a Language Arts 9 Essentials, Language Arts 9, or Language Arts 9 Honors. And we are using data from the teachers to determine students who may need to be assigned that tier 3 essentials level. And then those students who might choose to go to an honors level or who might need that level, and those students whose needs are met by regular tier 1 instruction. So we're also going to try to facilitate that. We recognize that we haven't been able to meet that need as much this year as we wanted. And so that is something that's going into place for language arts and math specifically next year, where we can focus on reading skills and basic multiplication skills and those kinds of things for students at all levels as well.
Can I throw something in just really quick? For the Lighthouse kids that I can think of off the top of my head, I can tell you we had 4 that graduated early, and that was in part due to the Edgenuity classes that they were taking in addition to their regular schedule. There are a couple that I know, I don't want to do names in the big group or anything, but I know there's about 3 that I can think of that did use Flex regularly, and that has helped them. And we did try to assure that those kids were in with Lighthouse teachers that they were comfortable and familiar with as we made their schedules. But then you also have to realize a lot of our kids are court involved that came over from the Lighthouse, and we lost a few of them, not because of anything Carbon did, but because of their life choices that they made. I have got several that are on informal probation, not because of attendance, but because of criminal activity within the community. And those kids have blown off school. They are Lighthouse kids, and they have blown off school this year, but that's got nothing to do with us. That was choices they made in the community and ended up in the court system for it. So as Chris and I'll help Chris put the data together, but we'll try to disaggregate that for you so that you know which of these kids just totally blew off school, which were there and received the assistance, and where they are sitting right now. But there's going to be, for those Lighthouse kids, they are from one end of the spectrum to the other.
We're more interested in the individual data of those that we're serving. If they chose to go to a different school or go to an online, or their life choices precluded them, it would have been the same. We're interested in those that we're serving and what are we doing for them.
I'm also wondering, because the students that, I mean, I think Flex Time has done great things, especially for the kids that miss and can really benefit. But for data purposes, when you're putting it together, anybody that has below like a D or an F is assigned Flex Time, right? Yeah.
Yes.
So then you're keeping track of the attendance that they have in Flex Time, right? So you should just be able to pull us up the data from those with D's and F's from one quarter to the next of how often they attended, or if they're really truly getting out of it, then maybe that's something we look at.
We're also adding in, we also have the data that we'll include in that, because a lot of those same kids who have D's and F's are attendance issues in general. So if the student is assigned to Flex and they aren't at school that day, we pull those numbers out because that's a student who doesn't show up to Flex but was not attending. So we add our attendance numbers in to help us decide to get more accurate data on attendance for Flex.
Okay. All right. Thank you, high school. We appreciate it very much. Okay, let's jump back. Oh, principal contracts.
Yeah, so this is something that we've been trying to wrestle with for a little
No
while.
wonder so many of them are hanging around.
Yeah, we have vetted this with them a little bit, but the main thing is we want to support our principals. One of our SMART goals for this year and next year is that we want 100% of our principals to be classified as effective or highly effective come May 2021. So because that's one of our main emphasis, we would like to propose a change to the principal contracts by adding 5 days. Here's the reasons for that. The summer offers a unique opportunity for us to provide professional development for principals. It's really tough to do during the school year. Summer provides a great opportunity for that. Also, principals work a lot during the summer, even off contract. If somebody resigns, it doesn't matter whether they've used, whether they've worked all their contract days or whatever, they've got to come and take care of that, right? So not just hiring people, but also when the new money comes in July, there's a lot of purchasing needs to be done and just a lot of things. So we have had some requests for comp time, which means, hey, I was off my contract and I had to come in because somebody resigned. And so we have had situations where, principals will say, well, I worked these days. Can I take more days off later on during the school year? Well, that's very problematic because of a lot of reasons. We do not want to do comp time. We would like to avoid that completely. So what we would like to do is add the 5 days to the two different levels of contracts, meaning those who are on a 200-day contract would end up with 205. Now, on a year like this, what that means is 193 days would be from the first work day of August to the last day of school, which would leave 12 days for them to use in the summer. That way we can say, as district administration, district level meetings and professional development, we feel like we would be able to more freely be able to pull them in and do some training, some professional development. But also they would have the balance of those days. You know, if we use 3 days for professional development, they would have, 9 days to use throughout the summer. And because of that change, we would simply say there is no comp time. If you need to spend above and beyond that time, that's just the way the cookie crumbles. We are not going to have you, keeping track of how many extra days you did and we'll give you extra days off during the year. We're not going to do that. So principals with 220-day contract is the same concept. Change from 220 to 225. Again, that would provide us, the same benefit there. So that's a proposal that we've put together. And just kind of wanted to get a feel from the board if it's something that the board could support. We'd like to see that reflected in our June budget meeting, that the salary schedules and everything, this would be reflected in the salary schedules.
So does that mean because, for example, 205 versus 200 is a 5%, is a 2.5% increase, that we would increase the wages 2.5%?
We would
take the daily rate.
Yes, Jeff.
Yes.
So basically, yes.
Accountant dancing around it over there.
So whatever percentage increase it is, it's that much more to it.
Yeah.
That's what you're saying.
The train not to give a straight answer.
So the 200 to 205 is 2.5. The other one, the 220 to 225 is about 2.1. So I don't know.
Just so you're aware of that.
Yeah.
Oh,
Just
you're
It's not
slightly
gonna be the same
different
percentage.
Yeah, looking at a percentage.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, if the current wage of the 220 contract is higher, then it's a higher amount.
Right.
Well, I understand that too. Okay, I just wanted to get clear on what we're actually talking about number wise.
And one thing that we want to express is that what we're hearing from principals is that sometimes in years past, the principals have been able to charge extra hours into some of the budgets that they manage. Like if they spent extra time on something, and it was part of their plan, then they could charge that, they could pay themselves basically. Well, that's a big problem when it comes to auditing and things. If you are in charge of the budget and you're able to, because you're in charge of it, write yourself into the budget for things that you're already hired to do, that's a big problem that we have. So we have made the stance that we do not pay principals extra hours. If we ask them to come in an extra day off of their contract, we'll pay them we'll pay them a stipend, like we do for teachers or anybody else. But as far as paying them extra hours, we're not going to do that. So this is also, helps financially for them to, okay, we're never going to be able to charge extra hours to our budgets, but we have these 5 extra days, and that does help compensate them for extra work. So.
Okay. All right. So let's finish up with the trust lands. We ended with, so we're past Wellington, the Helper Middle School.
Hello, how are you?
Ron, how are you?
Good, thanks. So we have 2 goals. They are largely aligned with our school improvement plan. They are based on our reading interventions and ensuring students are meeting their individual growth goal. This doesn't correlate directly to their grade level reading, but it is a means of encouraging and getting students to achieve improvements in reading. And our second goal is related to our students that need additional intervention beyond our intervention class that we've called a RAMS Academy. Essentially, it's a study group supervised by a certified teacher. We currently have 17 enrolled in a class. We've had up to 25. That becomes somewhat of a flexible one as kids are able to develop skills that they need and able to move in and out of that. Both of these are additional elective classes that would be taught by current part-time teachers. The reading class by one of our language arts teachers, and the intervention class would be taught by our music teacher.
So who set, on goal number 1, who sets that goal?
So those goals are set in conjunction with the student and the teacher. They meet individually after an assessment at the beginning of the year to set an improvement goal for their reading. And then as they read and go through specific interventions designed for those students, some of them are just reading large quantities of books. Some of them are tier 2 and some of them are tier 3 efforts. So that's essentially the money being spent for this is for a tier 2 class, which has been very successful. We've had a number of students in there that have achieved, and then our tier 3 students, most of those end up being our special ed students who are actually served through special ed services.
So the teacher on that goal 1, that's a certified teacher?
It is. Well, they're both certified teachers.
Right. Got it on the second one.
So the English language arts teacher is a part-time teacher, and this is additional time that they'll be spending in the classroom.
That is correct.
How much time is the 10,800?
That is one full class period, or essentially 1/7 of their day.
Okay.
They're currently a 70% teacher, so this adds an additional class period. We currently have that, but are unable to, with an upcoming enrollment, be able to keep it with the existing staff that we have. Faced with 3 sections necessary for each of our grade levels, it took our existing 7th grade language arts teacher who was teaching that and moves us over to our 8th grade language arts teacher who's part-time and allows us to continue that tier 2 reading intervention class.
Okay. All right, any other questions? Mount Harmon.
Okay, before we get started, as we looked at this and looked at how we were going to have to go out on a 2-year goal with this, we changed it to 5%. So goal 3 and 4 are still stating 3. That was based off of 1 year. So those will need to be changed to 5% as you look through those increases. So just a FYI on those, I need to get those changed. Okay, basically we're staying with the same plan. We're moving monies around a little bit as we've seen changes and needs. Goal 1 is to help pay for the teachers that are going to conferences, our language arts teachers, our math teachers, and our arts teachers. They go to conferences every year throughout the state, and this money helps pay for those conferences and their hotels and their meals and offset those costs for them. So that's what goal 1 is, and that ties back to helping them in their classrooms and meeting that goal of the growth over the next 2 years, where we're not going to have this year's data for our RISE testing. So that's goal 1. Goal 2 is our gifted and talented, and we've had huge success with this. And we're going to be able to, I think, save money out of goal 3 and add to this one. Mrs. Banaski has been working with Tom Laszlo and with our partnership with Brainstorm over the mountain. And then we're actually excited because we're working with Loveless Ash that with our 3D printers, we're actually going to bring in a resin printer this year. and have the kids go in and develop parts and work with them. They went down and had a field trip with them, and they build all of their parts on 3D printers and the programs they use. And so we're kind of looking at a partnership there with them, like we have with Brainstorm. And so we're looking at probably funneling more money into that, as the kids were excited and meeting with Mrs. Banaski today and what that looks like. So that's our Gifted and Talented. She'll be teaching a class period of that every day, and it'll actually have 2 tracks. It'll have an arts class track for Peak kids, and then the technology-based track for the Peak kids for Goal 2. Goal 3 is, again, our off-contract hours. Most of this goes to help with our 4 instructional coaches that we're able to. The district's been great to help us offset some of their prep time to go in and mentor our new teachers and work with our teachers, but they also need some time to get all that planned. And so this goes into help planning with them, and also with our leadership team that comes 3 days a week, 3 days a month, every Monday, other than one, for an hour before school, and helps look at what we're doing, meeting with their departments before their PLCs on Monday, and letting us know their concerns and getting that back. So that money offsets the time for our instructional coaches, our 4 instructional coaches, and the leadership team. Questions on those 3 before I move on to 4 and 5?
Just a comment, I really appreciate your commitment to gifted ed.
It's been exciting, Kristen, and what we're doing now with Loveless Ash and the parts, they're actually looking at, we're just in the first parts of this, of having our students go down over the summer and do mini internships with them. And so those conversations just started this week, and we're real excited about that.
Oh, neat. How great.
Okay, Goal 4. This came in huge this year. Besides Alex, we've pulled in some other programs that have helped us as we went out on everything being virtual. We're using iReady and Gizmo. Gizmo's been exciting. It's a virtual reality, where our labs and stuff can go on. And so these are expensive. Without the state grant for through the STEM department for Alex, it would eat more than our $28,000. We're able to get that at a cost. And so that lets us buy our other programs that we're able to use into the classrooms and get in, and has really helped us right now that we're out, that we have those available for us. And then the last one is we've increased this when I came to the board in mid-year to get another parapro. What this allowed us to do to help with our interventions and working with students is to give us 1 per grade level. So the 4540 hires 3 29-hour parapros, which puts them there most of the day when they come in short days on Mondays, so Tuesday through Friday, where they're able to meet specific grade level with students, help them out, work with the teachers, make sure that they're not getting too far behind, check with them. That way, if the students are even missing school, they know who they are, they make a phone call that day. So it allows us to do a lot there. And so we funneled a lot more money into that this year as we looked at it as a community council. That need has been showing us a lot of growth. So we're going to have 1 there per grade level. So that's what the 45's covering. And then we're able to now, we've been putting over $10,000 every year into our leveled books. This year, we're actually, as we were making orders today, Mrs. Banaski and the ELA department, that is being focused on science leveled readers for our students. And so they're a science-based. We have them in history, in language arts, and now we're able to start pushing leveled readers science-based into science classrooms.
Neat.
Looking at this from perhaps the state eye, what in the world is the difference between, I mean, you have the state the exact same thing in Goal 4 and 5. The only thing you do is add the math and science in 4, but are they going to say, why are these two, you're measuring the exact same thing?
Why are you just combining them into the same goal?
And I should have just, that one easy could just be combined in the same goal.
I think they're going to ask that you're measuring the same thing and making 2 goals out of it.
Yeah, that could easily be go in, and I could go in tomorrow and we could edit that and turn that into 1 goal. That would simplify it across the board. That's a good point.
All right, anything else?
I think you've got good goals there, Mr. Allred. I do have a question about, I was trying to read about your meetings and your history of your meetings and your minutes.
Yes.
I had a hard time finding anything. In fact, unless someone has a Gmail account, they can't get into your minutes.
Oh, really? I'll get with Randy Lynn. She was the secretary working with our president, and let them know that, and we'll get that changed this week for you.
It just needs to be accessible.
PDF.
Yeah.
It really just needs to be PDF.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I will go in and get a hold of Randy Lynn and our school president, school community president, and get that changed tomorrow.
Okay, and then the other thing I did not see, I don't know if when your last meeting was, but I couldn't find anything that talked about where your committee had talked about this plan for the coming year. So
it was
maybe
in our last meeting, so let's make sure that's on there. I appreciate you letting me know that wasn't on there.
Great, thank you.
All right, thanks, guys.
Okay, Carbon High School.
Hey, everybody, I'm back again. You're not sick of me yet?
Don't say that.
Okay, so we have 3 goals. We kind of combined some things. So the community council took a look at the plan, and they were really supportive of me in this process. My brain thinks trust lands at the elementary level because that's all I've done with regards to trust lands plans. So they were kind of bringing me up to date on the high school level and how the trust lands has worked in the past. So really there was a couple of big focuses, but the first goal was just the academic support that we get from our intervention aides and our paraprofessionals. And so the goal is to improve the academics in math, science, and history and language arts over the course of the year by 15%. And to do that, we are funding all of our paraprofessionals through the trust lands. What we discovered as we looked at the numbers was that somehow over the course of the last, 8 to 10 years, paraprofessionals who'd been paid out of trust lands in the past were now being paid out of general fund account money. They were not being paid out of trust lands anymore. So we were committed to bringing all of those paraprofessionals back to trust lands where they're supposed to be paid out of our academic intervention aides. So it required a little bit of an increase in the amount of money that we put into paying the academic intervention aides to make sure that they're all being paid out of trust lands. Also included in that is some off-contract time for teachers. We do have some teachers who stay after school out of contract hours and provide some additional tutoring to students who can and need that. And so we wanted to continue that as well. And then in that also were some supplies for our academic intervention aides that they need, additional calculators, as well as programs that they might use to help meet the needs of those students. Questions on goal number 1?
I'll just say this, sometimes that's, a school will forget where paraprofessionals are supposed to be paid from, and they end up in the general fund when they really should be out of one of these programs. So I'm glad that you're bringing that back in.
Okay, thank you. Goal number 2 is our professional development goal. So this mostly focuses on providing professional development needs for our teachers. So we have, as Seth mentioned, we have different teams who access professional development throughout the year. Our science team attends professional development, math, language arts, fine arts attends professional development each year. And so we wanted to make sure that we were able to have some funding to meet the needs of those. So we have $15,000 allotted for them to meet those needs, directly increasing our end of level results by 3% in each of the categories. So you can see there in ELA and math and science. And so we wanted to add that in there. That covers the cost of the conferences as well as hotels and per diem and those kinds of things. Also in that is our PBIS team and our leadership team. They meet monthly outside of contract hours for an hour when we meet with them, as well as they meet one additional time during the summer when we do a full day meeting that we have with them. And so we wanted to make sure that there was funding to pay them the extra hours that they are doing outside of their contract time. And then our last goal is something that I've seen be a huge benefit at other schools. And so the school community council was really supportive of this, but we would like to hire an instructional coach as a part-time instructional coach to work at Carbon. Someone that could, we have mentors that are phenomenal. They're awesome. They do a great job helping our new teachers. But we have a lot of veteran teachers who also need some additional support. Whether it's technology support, whether it's classroom management strategies that might work with today's students, how to incorporate things into their curriculum that they just aren't used to doing. So we wanted to hire a part-time instructional coach that we can use somewhere between 15 and 20 hours a week. We'll work out a schedule with the person that we hire that works best. But this would probably be a potentially retired teacher, someone who's a veteran who is just looking for a way to give back to the school that we can hire and use to benefit all of our teachers, not just the mentors that help our new teachers. And then along with that, we would like to pay for, we've hired new language arts teachers moving forward. And one of those is someone who we're going to assign as a reading specialist to help with our students who need help with reading, as well as our tier 3 language arts. And so we'd like to pay for half of that person's salary, so a half an FTE out of trust lands to help facilitate those core academic needs that we see being a benefit. Any questions on either 2 or 3?
Yeah, I have a question. So just help me through this as we go. Your first goal says you're going to increase academic achievement by 15%. And you specifically list math, science, and history there. Your other 2 goals say that you're going to increase learning by 3%. And the one that's left out of those 2 is history. So you've got a lot of improvement to history in order to go from the 3% to the 15% of the first goal. So what am I missing?
No, yeah, you're right. I apologize. And maybe it's just in the wording. The first goal is specifically targeting students in the classes from beginning of year to end of year. So we want to see the students improve. So that's where the history comes in. The other goals are your state level testing that we do. And so there is no federal or state testing for history. That's why you don't see that one in those other goals. So those are the Aspire Plus goals or Aspire Plus data. That's the 3% that you see there. That's from previous year to this next year. So from current year to next year, we want to see a 3% increase. The first goal targets students from beginning of year to end of year.
What's the difference?
So if a student comes in at the beginning of year, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Yeah.
So, well, the data that we're looking at is more specific with, like, if a student comes in at a certain reading level, we want to see them improve in that reading level. If they come in with background knowledge, so it's difficult to measure it. So, like, for example, in history, it doesn't build on itself. So freshmen take geography, and then as sophomores, they take world history, and then as juniors, they take U.S. history. So there's no data that's going to build from year to year in those areas. So we can track a junior in history, on specific learning targets, and then see how they do in senior in their senior government class on specific learning targets, because the learning targets are going to be very different from year to year.
So then what are you using to measure? How do you know you've increased 15%?
So that's based on assessments given quarterly. But we want to see the students improve on quarterly common assessments that are given. So you can see it's measured each quarter with math, science, and history, and then reading is measured 3 times per year.
Measuring what though, Chris? Are they measuring the essential standards? Are they?
Yes, sorry. Yeah. So specifically the essential standards that have been identified by the teachers with their mental model. So the teachers have mental models. What's that?
Put that in there.
Okay. I think that might be in our, I'll go look and see what we have in the actual trust lands, but if it's not there, we will add that in there.
I got you, okay.
Also, Chris, I guess my question is, you're talking about funding academic intervention parapros. So when you're looking at the achievement of this goal, are you looking at the data from the students who participated in the intervention only, or all students?
Well, so the question really is based on how we use the intervention aids moving forward. How they were used in the past and how we used them this current year was a little bit different. We incorporated them into the classrooms. So we had paraprofessionals assigned to math department, and they would go in the classrooms where they could work with students during the class time, the independent work time in the classrooms. We've had requests from teachers as well as others to utilize some of them in a capacity where they can actually work with individual students. They can pull them out and actually work with them on specific targeted areas. So the data will be reflected differently depending on how we're using each of those paraprofessionals.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
But is it all students or just the intervention students?
So again, I can write it as separate goals if it would make it easier. Some of the paraprofessionals will work with all students because they will be incorporated into the regular classrooms. Some of
will be measured
individual intervention students. What's that?
So that 50% is going to be calculated on who?
Well, it's going to be calculated on all students, but I can see where there would be a benefit to separate that into a separate goal so that we can calculate separately the intervention aids working with all students from the data of the intervention aids working with specific students.
I'm okay with either way, but I think it just needs to be clear what students we're talking about measuring.
Yeah, we've got to know that.
Okay.
And you may know that, we just don't from the goal.
Okay. I'll go back and adjust the wording so that it reflects better the specific students that we're talking about.
And how they'll be assessed.
Okay. And put in the wording in there on the specifics of the assessment. Okay. Thank you. Yep. I will add that in there.
All right, any other questions?
Well, my question isn't specifically for Chris, but maybe just a discussion for all of us on the School Lands Trust. I went back to the homepage because I remember years ago when, being a member of the community council for different schools, it says specifically in the instructions for parents that it's meant to find ways to benefit the school with using different programs and different projects. And, if we look at the grade schools and they use the programs for like the Lego building and the music and the art, and then we look at the secondary schools and it mostly is funding salaries for paraprofessionals. And there's very little when I look at how, if something is not in an intervention period right here at the high school, how is it affecting and how are we using that money to help anybody else out, where maybe we should be using it a little bit towards, history or science and maybe finding projects that those kids want to do, just like the at Mont Harmon, how they're doing the 3D with the gifted and talented. Are we overlooking some programs that we could be doing like that? And are we presenting these programs to the parents where they're going along with it, but maybe they might have some good ideas that we aren't just funding teacher salaries?
So are you saying that the principals probably aren't suggesting quality things
I don't want to say that they're suggesting it. I just wonder, and part of that is my fault. Maybe I need to go and attend more, but I would love to see that we have other options on there for some, creative and fun ways that we're using some of this money to come up with the ideas that also help kids that aren't just needing the interventions.
On that point, I'd really like to call out specifically those that are leveraging the money, that are partnering with different grants, that are partnering with different community resources, that they're actually leveraging the money. And that's a lot of what Melanie is saying here. I'd really like to point out, good job with those that are leveraging the money in those aspects. And those community members certainly will have ideas about how to be able to do that throughout the community.
And I agree with Melanie in that Mount Herman, well, and I think maybe Castle Heights also, they're using some of the money for more than just the kids that need interventions for academic improvement. They're using it for kids at the top who need enrichment and don't get it any other way. So I think that's a really valid point.
But I also feel it necessary to point out that right at the top of the list of the purposes for the trust lands plan is it says the school's greatest academic need.
Right.
And so if their greatest academic need is to lift those who are struggling most, then I think it's very well spent. If their greatest academic need is to offer more programs to those kids who are already carrying 4.0s, then fine. That's what their greatest academic need is. But don't think that's where Carbon High is. And most of our schools, at least the secondaries, I think you find that their greatest academic needs are in trying to lift those students who are not at the top.
Can I add one just thing in there too? One of the things that the high school does have, I guess, an advantage over maybe the other schools is that we have a lot of outside agencies that fund a lot of things for those students. So we have interns that are out in businesses throughout the community. Our concurrent enrollment programs, which we partner with the college to help provide those needs as well. So we don't necessarily, because of the high school, we have those connections and partnerships that help us facilitate some of those things that maybe the other schools don't have those connections with. But I am happy, we totally recognize if, we want to present some additional things to the community council and if, lobby for using these funds to provide some additional things for other students, we're happy to do that as well.
Okay. Well, thank you, principals. Thank you, district administration, for putting that all together for us. Certainly appreciate the monumental work that goes into this. We certainly appreciate the school community councils, and please take that word back to them that we understand, we feel, we know, we've experienced, we've been part of that critical process that comes from the school community councils. Okay, with that, is there a motion to accept the lands trust plans or the school land trust plans as they have been presented today?
No, but I'll make a motion that we accept the school.
Let's be blunt.
The school land trust plans with the changes that have been discussed today.
All right. Okay, it's been moved. Is there a second?
I second.
It's been seconded. Any further discussion on that wonderful motion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, because we don't have you here, Darren will need, who was that said nay?
No, that was one of my kids in the background.
All right, motion
That's a
carries.
good microphone that I got on.
We still want to know who it is, though.
Lindsay.
Lindsay, oh dear.
All right, so resolution to approve intra-local agreement. That's the graphite solar.
Yeah. And the thing with this one is the board has already approved it,
Yeah.
but apparently, according to laws, you want to explain this?
Yeah,
Because
I
don't
got
really get it.
More
clarification from
legal mumbo
Adam
jumbo.
Long. It just, the approval should have been made with a resolution. And so Adam Long has been the attorney on this. And he prepared a resolution, and that's essentially, it does exactly what you did in the last motion. It just gives a better paper trail for future reference. And so he asked if you wouldn't mind just formally approving the resolution, which that's what you did last time.
Do we have a title or a number, what the resolution is?
We haven't adopted any formal resolutions this year, but usually we would number them 2020-01.
Yeah.
And so this would be 2020-01.
Oh, you guys put a 0 in front of it. 01. Okay.
Not that we
I-
ever get more than 10 resolutions, but that's it could happen. Yeah. We can do 2020.
So attached to I don't see a resolution. All I see is the explanation of what the funds are.
Oh, yeah, I have not actually seen the revolution. I just I stuck that there just for reference for the board.
I printed you a copy to sign.
Oh, it's right here?
Yes, let me
Oh.
attach it real quickly.
Okay, good plan. Well, everybody takes a moment
To read the 10 pages.
resolution. Yeah. No, it's just
Pretty simple.
one page, one and a little tiny bit on the top.
Yeah.
Let's take time to
You
read.
you could read it out loud to if there isn't much on it. Hold on. Okay.
Oh, so it just references the agreement as Exhibit A.
Yeah, it doesn't
Okay.
talk about any terms of
Right.
the agreement.
So it's truly just a legal document that says we would formally adopt resolution that is
Which you
totally
already
contained in Exhibit A. Yeah, gotcha.
approved, so.
I don't understand.
What's the document that's on there?
It's just the same one that we presented last time. I just put it there for their reference.
I saw that there was a document attached, and so that was it. All right, I've attached it and it's saving right now. If you refresh, see if you have a copy of that. I put it under public content. But I think that's a pretty good one to have in there. Oh, and this is, I actually put it in PDF. It's easier to open, but this is a doc.
I don't know how well that's going to show.
Okay, let me.
But the board should be able to pull it up on there.
Yeah, I'm gonna quickly save it as a PDF and load that.
And you put it under where?
It's under public content.
But under the resolution to approve it on local agreement?
Yeah,
You just need to refresh.
Yeah.
Oh.
I just didn't know which. Okay.
Okay, the board should be able to see it now on your computers and on here.
So in summary, the whereas statements basically just state everybody that's a party to this agreement. It really starts with the therefore be it resolved, that the interlocal agreement attached as Exhibit A is approved and shall be executed by the district. I mean, that's the essence of the resolution.
So does this need to be signed by, oh, never mind, it's got signed. We need to turn it down, guys. You need to tell them no.
I was, okay. When you're done reading it, let us know.
I'm done reading it.
Okay.
I'm done.
Yeah, it's just those few parts right there.
I'm done.
We need one more, I'm done.
I'm finished.
Okay. All right. Is there a motion to approve the resolution that we left, that we did not approve when we approved the plan?
And Darren, we're gonna call that resolution 2020-01.
I wrote 2020-1. Let's start a new precedent.
Okay, so is there a motion to approve resolution 2020-1?
I'll move to approve Resolution 2020-1.
It's been moved. Is there a second?
A second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Not hearing any. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Come on, Lindsay. Motion carries unanimously. Okay, now down to our policies. First up is policy 354, LEA specific license endorsement. Is Robert still with us here?
Barely.
All right. I have a couple of questions on this. Now, was this our first or second?
Second.
Okay, well,
Second reading.
I have some questions then, some Jeff questions on here.
Ouch.
Under 354.4 approval, it, at the very first, it says Carbon School District shall send a list of all CSD approved LEA specific licenses. In 60 days of board's approval, the list of LEA specific licenses shall include, who do we send it to?
State of Utah.
To the USBE.
USBEs, but it doesn't say that we'll send it
He's
to the
saying-
US, we'll just send it somewhere.
Yeah.
Up higher, doesn't it say? Let's see. Maybe it doesn't.
That is where we send it, but we probably need to list that there.
And then that was all on this one that I had.
Did you get that, Robert, where he wants you to put Utah State Board of
Yeah.
Education?
Then 60 days of the approval to the USBE, we'll just add it right there.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Is there a motion to approve policy Policy 354, Carbon School District LEA specific teacher license / endorsement as a second reading with the change noted. Jeff won't do it because he can't add that on there.
It's there now.
I move to approve policy 354, Carbon School District specific teacher license / endorsement with the changes proposed.
Been moved. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Been seconded. Any further discussion on the motion? Hearing none. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Policies approved. Okay, now we go to policy 556, school fees. All right. Any discussion? Policy 556.
This is also second reading, is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
The changes are noted there. Additions with the green and slashes out with the red. Okay, not hearing any discussion up front. Is there a motion to approve policy 556, school fees?
I'll move to approve policy 556, school fees as a second and final.
Yes. It's been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been seconded. Any further discussion on the motion? With none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Motion there, I heard them all. Motion is unanimous. Motion carries. Okay, anybody can raise their hand that is happy to be done with school fees for the year. Yeah. Okay, and then we're back to policy 535, student conduct e-cigarettes. Now, is this a first?
This is actually third because we had to make some readjustments after the second one.
Okay. All right, so I have some questions then with this. One question I have, there's a difference between tobacco and alcohol as far as how far away. One of them's changed from 1,000 to 100 feet, but the alcohol is still 1,000 feet. Is that, did the law leave it that way, or did we not make the change?
I believe the law left it that way.
Okay, and that was my question, whether or not they left it that way. Then down under 535.3, or is it .4 now? Student drug policy continues. So where?
Okay, yeah, so new 4.3.
New 4, so
But
right down at the.
do you want it
page
there? Or do you want it
change.
the next paragraph
Yeah,
down?
the page change.
There you
Right
go.
there, so right there, So compliance with this policy should be mandatory. A student who violates the terms of this policy may be suspended or expelled from school at the discretion of the board. Do we need to differentiate between the board and administration for suspension and expelled?
We do, because the board doesn't suspend, but the board does expel.
Yeah.
So, yeah, let's clean that up. Actually, I'll do it right now.
It just said suspended or expelled. Would that be sufficient? Because there's another policy that describes how suspension and expulsion are done. Does it need to specify who would?
Yeah, I mean, we have
If
another
there's a
policy.
If there's suspension in there, the board can't be the only one mentioned.
I just say, what if you mentioned no one? Just say.
What if we just took that part out right there?
It would be suspended or expelled.
Because we have other policies that dictate who expels and who.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, however it makes it cleanest.
Yeah.
I'm always in favor of less rather than more.
Be suspended or expelled from school. Yeah, I guess that works.
So if we did that.
Okay, then down under first violation. Oh, right there, no, right there, where it says parents. Parents are required. Do we need to put parents or guardian?
Right, because some of them have guardians.
What was that, Robert?
We probably do need to put guardians because some may have a guardian.
Then under second violation, what, that green that's underlined right there, that might be it. A licensed instead of licenses.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I tell you, I got some
when
Jeff
did-
stuff.
when did you learn to read?
Got the Jeff stuff going here. Okay.
Been there for many years, so.
Yeah. I'm jumping in there before Jeff would come in.
I know, I guess I gotta slow down because I was just skimming this.
Okay, then under guidelines, just down underneath that, 535.4. So it says, so in addition, the student will submit a written assessment for potential chemical dependence from a licensed provider and will enroll in and complete an early intervention alcohol program. Students will be readmitted on a probation status until written verification. So if you go up to the first offense, it says the exact same thing. Students will be readmitted on a probationary status. In other words, there is no difference between the first and second offense.
I think the difference is how long they're suspended.
Yeah, they're suspended for 10 days.
But in the second one, they're suspended longer.
Okay, but it says students, do we need to say after suspension, students will be readmitted? When I read it, I just thought, well, students are immediately readmitted. I read it, I thought, well, they're suspended.
I think it
but-
has to be at the conclusion of the suspension, they are readmitted.
Yeah, so I think we need to say.
So something like.
And every one of those now, the second offense says that, third violation says that same thing.
Yeah.
Do you want to say suspension or expulsion? Because you've got those
Yeah,
two
on
terms.
the other ones that, or expulsion.
Well, the third one is pretty,
Yeah, this.
Calendar year.
Yeah, so just the third one is expulsion? But the second one says the
Second
same
one
thing.
should be the same thing with
Yeah.
right here.
And then the same thing down in the second paragraph, third violation, but we ought to add or expulsion.
I did that one right there. That's the third violation.
Perfect, it's already done, all right.
Do we, I haven't read it.
Then violations for selling and distributing.
Yeah, I was gonna say, is it,
Says the
needs to be
same
added
thing.
right there?
Yeah.
This one's suspension and expulsion.
Expulsion, yeah.
What did I say?
At the conclusion.
Oh, there we go.
And then under guidelines. Second paragraph.
And this one is,
No, maybe it doesn't need to be added on this one.
yeah, this one's not talking about, this one's talking about expulsion.
Yeah, yeah. And then the issue dates, does that matter? So we've got 6/20/07 on this.
Yeah, we really just need to delete those, and because if I hit save here, you'll see at the top, we have all of that. We should be able to record that information up here.
2007. And then I've got a great one for the last one.
As we, in board docs, a great thing. Right now, this one just says adopted. But as we revise them, when there's official revisions, they will add a line there that says last revised and keep that going.
And we put that right here, once the board approves it.
All right. So under students with disabilities, the last two words of the first paragraph.
Students with disability.
Just keep
There it
going.
is. Contact Pat
Pat is
Francis.
looking down on us and smiling. Yeah.
Let's go ahead with the new person there. That would be Amy Bell,
We put the position.
Yeah. Put it.
Plan Director.
Yeah.
We also changed the beginning of that paragraph, instead of putting it in first person, if you are, so
A student.
if a student with a qualified disability,
The school administrator.
okay, how about for students with a qualified disability? comma, the school administrator will explain the separate procedures.
So I'm gonna say
Just for
students.
For a student.
For a student,
Yeah, I guess.
that would be more correct. For a student with a qualified disability,
A school, their school, or the school.
Or a school.
No, it'd be the school administrator, because it's gonna be
the,
Okay. That's good.
yeah, I think that did it. Yeah, that's better.
All right, any other changes? Okay, is there a motion to approve as a second and final reading, policy 535, student conduct with the noted changes?
Those board members who are viewing this from home, are you comfortable with all these changes?
Yeah, we can certainly move it to another reading.
I think maybe we need to save it one more time just so we have a chance to read through it again.
I do too.
Is there a pressing reason to pass it right now?
There's not, is there, Robert?
Robert?
We can't hear you, Robert.
His computer has frozen, but I can hear him saying no.
No, I don't think there's a real pressing situation right now because we don't have students here, so.
Okay.
Then I would move that we approve the changes to policy 535, student conduct, tobacco and alcohol, as again, a first reading, and bring it back for a final reading next meeting.
It's been moved. Is there a second?
I second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay. We'll make Jeff read it big time next time. Okay, so how do we want to handle the consent agenda and going to closed session? Are you comfortable with approving the consent agenda without a closed session with the personnel?
Well, the new hires are outside of the consent agenda.
So we don't necessarily have to have a closed session. We could still approve the consent
Yeah.
agenda and the new hires, I
Yeah,
guess.
I have questions about what all these individuals mean and how, are they LEA specific licenses? Are they ARLs, things like that?
Yeah, I mean, and we can definitely answer that. Probably not in open.
Yeah,
Okay.
that was my
All right.
question.
Okay, so we have pulled the new hires out of the consent agenda. So is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I move that we approve the consent agenda.
It's been moved. Is there a second?
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion?
I have a question on the minutes because I had to leave early from last meeting. So if you look at the meeting minutes from, I gotta get, where is it? The March 11th meeting minutes is what we're talking about, right, guys? Okay, if you look clear to the bottom. Action item number 5, well, it's not quite clear to the bottom. Action item number 5, we approved the school fees, recommend the action was approve the school fees for the 2021 school year. Had a motion and a second, the whole thing. And then if you go down further, it says was a motion to approve the school fees as presented.
Copy and paste. Yeah. Should say to approve the consent agenda.
Okay,
Okay.
I was
Changes
confused.
noted.
I thought I missed something.
No, there's no new discussion on the school fees. Consent agenda. So I made that change.
So the motion
In the
now is to
official
approve the
file.
consent agenda? Is that?
The motion was to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Okay.
Is there a way to go to, can you all see me in the large picture?
Hold on, we're on a different view, so it'll take just a second here.
I gotta show you what's happening outside my window. Can you see this? See the cop cars and the whole line of cars?
Yeah.
Jackson Griffith's 16th birthday drive-by. That's the quarantine time. We got a highway patrolman and everything.
16 years old. This is Brian's kid, Brian Griffith's
Yeah.
son.
Yeah, so I'm
That's fine.
kind of distracted because I got all sorts of sirens and honks and horns going outside my house.
Okay, so all in favor, say aye.
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 Motion carries. Okay, is there a motion to move to closed session due to the discussion of character, professional competence, or physical or mental health of an individual?
Whoops, I don't want to print that. What am I doing here? Hold on a second. I'm confused. Okay, I move we go to a closed session to discuss the character, professional competence, or physical mental health of an individual.
It's been moved. Is there a second?
A second.
Been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We got roll call.
Procedural-
Roll call.
procedural.
Yeah. Jeff,
Aye.
Melanie,
Aye.
Kristen,
Aye.
Lee,
Aye.
Wayne, aye. Okay. Now, of note, we will come back to general session with the one item on the agenda to approve the new hires. Okay, with that, are we going to start a new meeting, or are we just going to disconnect everybody?
We will I will disconnect right here, but the meeting still goes on virtually, but we won't be connected to it. Then I will send a new invite to all the board.
Okay.
To you three. And so be looking in your email, Melanie, Kristen, and Lee, because here in just a minute, you'll get that invite and we'll open it just like we did this one.
Okay.
Superintendent,
Yes.
I have added to that list of new hires, not names, those that Jeff would have a question about associate licenses or LEAs.
You added it to the board packet?
Yeah, so outside of that, it has the people who would need to be an associate license or an LEA.
Where do we see that?
It would be on the spreadsheet under,
We need to do refresh.
yeah,
Yeah,
you
do
probably have to refresh that spreadsheet.
Okay. All right. Well, we better close that spreadsheet out and revert.
Okay, we are back from, you got that thing running there?
Yeah.
We're back from our closed session. The final item on our agenda is new hires. Is there a motion to approve the new hire list?
I move we approve the new hires.
It's been moved. Is there a second?
I second.
Been moved and seconded. Good thing you came back, Kristen. Been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. Well, it was a good thing, I was telling Jeff, it was a good thing we had that extra hour in work meeting to get those trust lands things out of the way, or we'd be here for another hour. So this is another one of those marathon meetings that Kristen always begs that we have.
I love these meetings.
When you're sitting at home.
Superintendent,
Yes.
I just wanted to remind you, I really liked what you started to tell me about reading, to tell all of us about reading, the statistics you had. When you read the trust lands, you really don't get a very clear picture of the progress that's been made in reading. And it sounded to me like, just from the little bit you told me, that we have made some gains and some good things are happening. So will you, if you can, if you have time, will you be sure to present that to us next time?
Yeah, I made that note, and we have exciting data there. We are making amazing progress.
I've been bragging all over town about it. In fact, the Kiwanis Club kind of cornered me on it, so hopefully the numbers I made up match close to what you.
Well, and you know, I wonder why that doesn't seem reflected in our trust land plans.
Yeah, like I say, I think a lot of it's because these principals are approaching it from not an end of year to end of year look, but you know, the data they have right now was from January, so it's going to be low. If they had data for today, it would look a lot better. But anyway, I think that's why it looks a little off, a little strange. But when you look at everything in the whole picture, which I'll be able to show you next month, I think it's a lot easier to understand in that other format.
Oh, that'll be great. Thank you.
Winter Tech.
One really sad thing, though, is the prospect of not being able to test those reading levels for the end of this year. All of our goals are related to it. Everything that we're striving for has to do with that.
Yeah.
But now the ability for us to sit down with students one-on-one and provide that assessment is just, we don't see how we're going to be able to do that. So that's going to be a big hole in our data, but we'll have to, catch up with that data in the fall.
This is a crazy idea, but is there a way that a parent could do that?
It's really tough because you have to be trained on errors and everything. And so I think it would be pretty tough. The other idea that we have is students need to come and pick up their stuff and drop off Chromebooks and stuff. So we're trying to figure out how can we facilitate that? And is there a way that we could do a little bit of assessment? So we're not ruling it out completely, but working with the health department, there might be a way that we can figure something out. So we'll see.
That'd be great. That'd be neat.
Okay, is there a motion to adjourn? Oh, first of all, next board meeting, May 13th, Wednesday, May 13th. I anticipate that many of the exact same regulations will be in place, at least as far as those that would be invited as public being here. So I assume that the same format, we could probably count on the same format. If you'd like to be here, there's plenty of room in this board meeting to provide for social distancing, but whatever you're comfortable with, we certainly have the technology seem to work pretty good for us. So anticipate much of the same next meeting.
Okay.
So we don't get, and then it'd be a pleasant surprise instead of an unpleasant surprise.
That's right. Good night.
Okay. Move to adjourn. Thanks, John. We're adjourned.
Adjourn.
Thanks, everybody.
See you later.
Yeah.